Oh, welcome in, friends. What's up? What's up, y'all? Sorry I'm a little late today. This morning when I took off, I set my start time. Then when I got close to home, I thought, oh my God, I'm pushing that a little bit. I thought I was going to be home in plenty of time, but my friends, I was busy. It's good to see you, Bonnie Randall. And thank you very much, Sweet Tea, for the kind super chat before the stream. I want to make sure to acknowledge that. Thank you very much, darling. Oh, we were just out visiting Grandma today. She had some presents for my daughter in that sense. No, don't think you have to super chat. No dry beg here. I'm just kidding. I hate mentioning anything like that in that circumstance. I'm not mentioning it, but of course, it comes around once a year, and it's not even her birthday yet. But it was a holiday here in Canada. I don't think it's a holiday in the States. So anyway, there's all kinds of traveling to do. I spent most of the time trying to fix the fire alarm at the house. Fire alarm started going off on us when we were barbecuing. And of course you have to it wouldn't shut off. And then when it would shut off, it would start up again. And once one goes, they all go. So it took us a little while to get on top of that, to figure that out. But we managed to solve that sort of scenario. Glad there's an electrician around. I used to be an electrician. But I got to do all the fun work. But I got fed first, so it wasn't so bad at the end of the day. Yeah, she's going to be an adult. She's going to be 18. My little girl is grown up in that circumstance. Oh my God. Grown up with me as her father, and she survived it. What's going on, Pictou County, Shelley Fraser? Oh, love. Nova Scotia is genuinely beautiful. Many places in Canada are. However, every place has its bad seeds, its ups and its downs. I was just thinking that today when I was coming downtown. I don't get downtown here in London very often. I tried to avoid it. But I'm thinking, oh shit. There's some new hangouts. People are choosing some new hangouts in the downtown core to carry on their activities, and I felt sorry for them. Barbara Ann, you're all the way from Alberta? Fantastic. Did you guys watch Justin? Was it last night or the night before? Anyway, you see on your screen, he was going through all of these messages. I think I took these from Justin's and I put them in my folder. Anyway, there are a bunch of texts, another series of different texts to add to the collection. And there's a lot of them. Not that we need to read them all historically. But last live stream, I believe we went through a lot of them. Some of them. But a lot of them that I had. So I went and I took all of the screenshots from Justin's stream. And he was reacting to them. So I'm going to have a look through them together. We're going to look through these together. Not that there's anything all that amazing in what Daniel has to say here by any means. This dude is something else, though, isn't he? Like, could you possibly look any more guilty in a circumstance like this? I don't know. Like, it's almost laughable. But you still have to go through the legwork if you're a detective investigator. You would have thought that would have been happening. I'm a little bit concerned about why they don't have the cuffs on them yet. That's always a concern. It's probably should be concerned with everybody. You got to keep you on the straight and narrow. But again, how they're presented the case, it's all really up to a couple detectives in the Crown, right? How they want to go about doing this. Not everybody's in the know. We all want our curiosity satisfied, our confirmation biases, or our biases confirmed. Kelly, you're calling Daniel a ratchet? Yeah. Yeah, to say the least. This is a scenario where when you recognize it, you know that you're experiencing evil. And in this case, we're into the thick of it. This entire family, and those supposed to be protecting Jack and Lily, were always concerned about themselves. And they still are at this very moment. I wonder why that is. Wonder why. Wonder what it is that they did. But who knows? Everybody was sleeping, in and out of sleep. When have you ever heard anybody use that excuse? Right? Maybe a teenager might use that. There's a lot of avoidance when it comes to exactly pinning down what happened in the circumstances leading up to all of this. But we do have a reoccurring theme of abuse, drug abuse, and physical abuse, and controlling behavior, and conflicts internally within the family between Daniel and Malaya. That sounds about right. You know, I was watching some of these early Daniel streams, by the way. Many of you probably already saw it. Way back in the first, like when he first made his appearance on TV. For those of you who have experience with the math, the tweak, the jib, the Tina. For those of you who know that particular substance and know its effects on people, Daniel could barely pronounce one word. It was a complete sentence. That's definitely under the influence of amphetamines. We'll call it the math for the sake of the conversation here, and to try to say, keep the algorithm happy. But if you've ever seen somebody under the influence, the first thing that goes is their ability to communicate. And it all usually sounds like one word. They're trying to get something out, but it's just not computing in that sense. And as soon as I saw that interview, I'm like, oh God. Like, even if I didn't ever know Daniel before, I would have recognized it. It's like, this dude is tweaking. And that's just not for the laugh in chat. Like, he really was. He's got his need to put on an act, and his shows of emotion are way off. But that's besides the point. It was the things that he's trying to lead on and say. Like, think about the type of person. Like, we're all so suspect of him right now. We know he did something. But looking back on all of that now, look at the extent that this son of a bitch went to cover up his crime. And every step of the way, he wants these little things to look like, in fact, he's helping the investigation, when in fact, he's acting just like a suspect, a prime suspect who has something to hide. He's the only one that's believing this shit at this point. Ain't nobody out here believing him or his fucking claims. But it doesn't end there. That's just the beginning. That's the door you recognize which one to open. Gaze through into a brand new perception of the depravity of the shit that went on in that house that contributed to the destruction of these children and his need to cover up his own culpability. Good to see you, 80 Katie. Now we're going to read these all sarcastic and whatnot. So they're not in any particular order. They might be, but it doesn't really matter because they're not really conversing about anything. It's Daniel really just shaking off all of the questions and talking about how important he is in this case and how it affects him in such a negative way. And nobody understands exactly what's going on. No dick knows. It's you who doesn't get it. We all fucking know the severity and the level of the situation. That's why we're here. Lori Green, good to see you. I owed you an apology last streaming. I don't think you were here. He was overselling himself, describing his search. Oh, yeah, Lori, right in the beginning. Yeah, exactly, and he still does. He still does. And the need... think about the type of person who has the need to do that in this circumstance. Oh, boy. I'm fucking so proud of you, Daniel. Oh, Kelly O'Neill, you're just learning about it. Through this case, it's very sad. You don't understand why people smoke chemicals. That's weird. Well, it's a thing. Don't worry, it's a thing. Oh my gosh. Believe me, your grandparents were doing it. Like, they sent stormtroopers across Europe in 1939 on it. The Japanese used it in war. They already enacted a law against this stuff way back. I like the Japanese story about the math in the pills. They had a whole society addicted to it. And I often wonder, and I sit like, there's the history that we know in the history books, and then there's the actual history. It's not when you realize it, or come across, I should discover these stories, these little slices of reality about our history. And it's a lot easier to understand the struggle that people have gone through time and time again, and more importantly, recognize the cycle. Yeah, Kelly, it's all about Daniel instead of Jack and Lily. Yeah, it is, but he's got to be the star. Somebody's got to be the star. Lori Green, yes, a narcissist loves the attention. I try not to use that term, remember. It's just a cop-out. There's more to it than that. Attention. Oh, yeah. They need to inform their audience just like Daniel's doing. Well, yeah, you've got to put the suggestions out to plant the seeds, right? He's just utilizing media for what many other people utilize it for, to spread their disinformation and lies. It could be to sell you something, could be anything. But it's effective, and the fact that he's engaged in that sort of behavior tells you, this guy has something to hide in that sense, to put it nicely. Oh, Christ, no, Kelly. No. Actually, the more that you learn about it, the more disappointed you're going to be, because then you'll recognize who. It was A.B. Farnham that turned into BASF, Nazi chemical companies, and who actually, Bayer, and the need to, how it got discovered and things like this. Yeah, it's kind of interesting if that's your thing, but you certainly understand its use. And of course, its first use was in a war setting. Now, shaking and baking like Daniel does, that's a new age thing. Where you try to synthesize lithium in what would be pseudoephedrine, and you're trying to create a new compound under intense heat and pressure, usually in a soda stream bottle, something that can take some pressure, and you have to shake it a little bit and then breathe it off a few times. And you got to separate it and dry it and crystallize it. But it's a different way of doing it than Bayer does in that circumstance, or there's different methods of making it. Now there's a pattern right there. Renee Harper. He hated Jack because it was a constant reminder of Cody. He hated both kids because it took money away from his habits. Yeah, I could see that. There's resentment that grew. They're just strange kids. They're kids who have to fit into his particular way of living and lifestyle, as opposed to, being an accommodating, responsible adult wanting to build a family environment. The fact that that there's drugs involved, all of that or the rugs involved, all of that assumption and presumption goes out the window. Like, the drugs took priority. The drugs controlled the parents, and the parents were hard on dissociatives, the divorce drugs. So, knowing what we know or think we know about Daniel and his ways, his controlling ways, they're probably a whole lot worse than how it is being portrayed to us. They're giving us the bare minimum, even by admitting it. They're playing into the game a little bit, but controlling the amount of information that we get, even though, just admitting to it is enough. The risk factor in that household for these children were through the roof. Good to see you, Mary Janzer. You got kicked out of the chat that day, Tammy? That's because you're a hard woman. You're trying to be nice and get information, but got kicked out of that chat. Which chat are you talking about? Oh, the one where these... What are you talking about? Well, in reality, Slim, it's his responsibility. But Daniel already knows the drugs' influence in all of this. He just thinks that he can control it. Daniel's defense will eventually be to blame the rugs. Well, you can put blame on the rugs because they made him do... in a sense, you can. It was induced. But he still got to take, accountability. There's no resentment by these. They blame the kids right down till the end. What do you think, things were like there? They're probably getting the blame for everything around the place leading up to their deaths. What is it going to take to satisfy, if they're not satisfied already? The RCMP have come out and talked about how they don't believe the kids would, be able to remain alive independently. Is that going to be enough for a jury? Is that enough for that particular part of the evidence? Like, how much proven do you need at this point to be certain that the children have to be deceased at this point in time? No animals have come across anything. Nobody stumbled upon it. And the more that time goes by, the stinkier it gets for Daniel and Malaya. Not because they're doing nothing, but it's because of the things that they're like how they react to the particular situation. Daniel's continuing this line of bullshit, this contradicting narrative that's nothing short of lies. That's working against him. Malaya's silence and selective responses through her psychic pink-haired beach friend, that freak, Cheryl Christine, nerd. That chick is probably... fuck that bitch. That is the type of individual that people effing hate. You're doing so much good here. Oh, look at the good that you're bringing to this situation. It's like Satan, for crying out loud. Any good parent knows that you don't sleep with a 4 and 6-year-old. It's not safe. Yeah. Well, let's not forget Meadow. Meadow's like still a baby. How is it you guys are ever in the bed? I can't remember ever being in bed and having a sound sleep in a long time. Unless you're all in one bed sleeping together, I guess. Nothing about that particular story or narrative is believable. But people want to talk about it because it's all the information that they have, and the rest Daniel has. And he wants a little bit of thank you, a little bit of credence for even bringing it to you in the first place. You should be thankful, he thinks, for all of the bullshit disinformation, all of the stuff that he wants you to talk about that isn't related to the actual situation, the real truth, we'll call it. Let's have a little bit of a look here. Let's have a closer look. What is all this? Tammy. This is a conversation between Tammy and Daniel. I'm not sure who Tammy is exactly, but hello. What does that mean, Daniel? Moving forward, all data collected has grown. Man, this Daniel, by the way, he's really coming across. He's really starting to sound like speaking riddles now. Okay, he's coming into people's chat acting like the Joker or the Riddler from Batman. He comes in and he's answering questions with questions. How suspicious is that? That's even a nice term. That's a nice way of terming it. Everything he says, he wants to use an analogy that's completely fucked up and twisted to the point it's a little slice of comedy. He's talking about making all these references about water and water this. He's got water on the mind. I wonder if that's where he's got the kids. And a lot of people are signaling that they don't like it. Do you guys watch Mike DeMann? I think he might be from like Holland or somewhere in Europe, or maybe even Sweden for all I know. I don't actually know where he's from, but I found him by accident the other day. I was listening to Mike DeMann, and he's all keen in on statement analysis over this. And I started to really get into listening to him, and he was explaining why he was believing him to actually mean certain things through normal statement analysis. But it was really good. It was really good. So now that I mentioned him, he should be coming up in your YouTube home screens. Let me see. Cher wants the GoFundMe money, in your opinion, Lobster? Absolutely. Who doesn't? Believe me, those tweakers will be thinking of all kinds of ways that they can get some money. Girls, you're going to have to sell your ass on Craigslist again. Sorry, baby. Anytime that there's fundraisers or anything like that, first of all, the last thing that I think about in an emergency situation like this is raising money, creating something. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? I just thought I'd mention that. Not that there's anything wrong with that. If that's your thing, do you, baby? But it all comes down to integrity at the end of the day. We've talked about that last stream. Anyway. Don't expect it. Don't expect much. So this is Daniel. We'll just pick it up anywhere. So he's saying all data collected has grown. Tammy says, do you know why the RCMP said they are not giving details about May 1st? Part of the message cut off. Daniel comes back and says, I work with investigators 3 times a week. What that really means, what that really means, I hope they're talking to him 3 times a week. Somehow I don't believe it, though. Like, how many times do you got to get your story straight in that sense? Like, how many times is it really necessary? He wants to make it look like he's part of the investigation. Come on. Wrong side of the law, boy. Yeah, Tammy, that's been around. That's been out for a while. His coworker was out and somehow laid eyes on him while he was out. Well, very proud of you. That's the least of his fucking worries at this point. Listen, that's not going to take any suspicion off you at all. There's nothing that you can do or say, Daniel, at this point in time that's going to make you look less suspicious in the circumstance. Nothing. Why? Because you're fucking guilty, pal. We know you're guilty. It's not our jobs to bring the law to you. That's the law's job. Where the hell are they? We're patiently waiting, toe tapping on the side. Tammy says, I thought you said not so much anymore. Daniel, so here's one of his riddles. He's speaking in riddles. What does that mean when somebody starts speaking in riddles to you? That you're on the set of Batman? Or somebody's actively trying to deceive you? Can you not just speak straight to the question? Can you not communicate properly? Tammy, do you Tammy, you think I don't realize the magnitude of this case or the impact on my daily life? This guy's fucking tripping. Like, that doesn't even make sense. What does that have to do with anything? Diversion. All kinds of diversions here, aren't there? Tammy says, you told the CBC News something was every day, and now... Daniel says, I know everything ahead of the public. I know you do because you're guilty, stupid. You're the prime suspect in all of this, and you talk exactly like the prime suspect, Daniel. Even in this conversation, I know everything ahead of the public. This is part of the effects of the dope, too. It makes you incredibly fucking stupid. Absolutely stupid, but not any less desperate. So you still have to go through it. And risk all the times that you look like a complete idiot. And here's one of them. Here's another one. I know everything ahead of the public. This tells you a little bit like he's getting off on having all of the information that the cops want, have all of the information that the public wants in this circumstance. And like the true child killer that he is, he's perversely getting off on that sort of control over people and having a little fun with it while he can. Hey, Daniel, you're a fucking child killer, pal. And probably a whole lot more when we find out. Yo, Taze, what's up? Daniel says the case has moved forward since my CBC interview, but to the public, it hasn't. There's a certain double entendre to everything that Daniel speaks about at this point in time. Daniel, what would you think about Wade's recording? What did you think about Wade's recording? Hold on here. Why did no one check on Lily or Jack that morning, though? Wasn't she sick with a cold? Daniel says they want to target me with the narrative, but little do they know the apples fall closer to the tree. All right there, Joker. This guy's fucking like obfuscating. The lead suspect is now using analogies. And that's funny because that's kind of what we say about you, by the way. You and your mom and your incestuous relationship. Dude be living with his moms. Can you fucking believe this? They want to target me with the narrative, but little do they know the apples fall close to the tree. You can interpret that as just plain stupidity, but also as a piece of evidence. It's so bizarre. What the fuck? What is his fucking problem? Dude, you're tweaking. What's this say? The interview was cut 2 hours and 50 minutes short. Oh, the interview that you gave CBC? Oh, is that what they're calling it now? All of these new words that they're allotting to things? I would call that more of an interview to get you to lay a baseline in front of the narrative, because it's going to be hard to stick to that, especially when you start blaming people like Malaya so openly. So they is he saying that they had a great big 2.5 hour interview and only aired like 8 minutes? Oh, I love it. I love that shit. The question is, how many fucking lies are you gonna be able to catch him in? How many of them are you gonna be able to use? There are probably so many. You know, they're never at a shortage with Daniel. It's not like he's being elusive. So let's see. Tammy says, and when they say something, I believe what they say. Daniel says, Mom cried for like 2 hours of footage. Her interview was over 3 hours. Yeah, that's fucking perfect, boy. That's just as good of look. Oh, that's so fantastic, Daniel. That's so fantastic. So the CBC had an over 3 hour interview with Janie and only aired that little bit. She's got all kinds of other things to say up in there that probably makes her look like a tool. Mom cried for like 2 hours of that footage. I wonder why that is. Daniel. A sympathy ploy. I'm sure she'll tell us. Old Janie won't hesitate to tell us exactly why she's crying. I was crying. Who the fuck does that? It's a gaslighter. This is gaslighting at its finest. All right, are you guys ready to roll? I think I'm ready to cry. Let's go. Come on, these are very important tears. That's why I called you out. I'm very emotional today. It's perfect. They've got every reason in the world to touch their primal emotions in this circumstance because they're trying to get away with murder. Child murder, all right? They've got every reason in the world to make these crazy attempts. They're busy trying to convince you of some bullshit story. And it is not working on anybody. It's not working on anybody, including the police. There's no possible way it can. The more that you learn about it through little, I guess we'll call it slippage, some leakage, for lack of better terms, even though he's not directly talking to it, we know what it means. The CBC's airing 8 minutes of a 3-hour interview. I'm pretty sure that the RCMP are using that and comparing it and just accumulating all the discrepancies, all the suspicions, just more shit to follow up with. He's not getting away with anything. I think what's driving the RCMP more than anything at this point is maintaining status quo and hopefully, with a little bit of luck, it might work itself out. It might solve itself in the circumstance. Whereas if you start moving and taking the initiative and start throwing heavies and going a little bit too rammy, you're more than likely going to fall into issues in how the investigation should go. Creepy guy just wants AB viewers. What are you saying, Miss K? Oh, cheeky monkey. Oh, that's all right. Are you talking about that pedo? That chomo? No. We just get him in here so we can kick him out. It doesn't matter. You can put me on notice for everything he wants. It's all a facade, cheeky monkey. I don't even waste my time. He banned me from his live chat the other day. Now that you bring him up. Daniel's crying to the detectives about the impact on him. Oh, are people online hurting his feelings? What do you think the impact on Daniel is at this point in time? Christ, you got everybody out of your house. Should be okay now. Should be perfect. Do you have a guilty conscience? See, a person that's been traumatized, okay, acts a lot different than a person like Daniel's acting, and you guys know this. There's no trauma in this circumstance, sadly, with these parents. And that should be a kind of an indicator of what led up to this. Or maybe they were both okay with how they were disciplining them. And then it would escalate to disciplining them a certain way to the point where somebody lost their life. But there's 2 kids here. So it complicates things in the sense of it'd be nice to know what happened so that we could charge that son of a bitch with even more. Somewhere, somebody has to have had footage of Daniel on the move. It'll be deep nor'easter on his rectum when he goes to jail. Who the hell sits up there in front of the CBC so early at this point and starts talking about 2 missing kids who otherwise you shouldn't know what's going on? You're talking about how you're innocent of killing them. That kind of tells us what really happened here, doesn't it, you? Donna, for Malaya to have the audacity to be proud of lying to the people trying to help her find her kids, well, she's not trying to help. Doesn't have a legitimate missing kid. She wanted these kids gone. Oh my God, she should be grateful that people care. We are all traumatized, but them? Yeah, well, that's a good point. People should be traumatized. No, they're not traumatized. They're traumatized over the fact that they're having to go through the process of skirting the law in line of like capital murder charges on a child, and then some. I think that would be probably be pretty stressful. So it's not surprising to me. It's surprising. Everything is surprising in the circumstance. But is it surprising at this point in time, considering the behavior since day one of the otherwise birth mother? She couldn't wait to get rid of all of those kids. That's why she doesn't have any kids left. she's talking. That's what kind of stuck with me with Wade's conversation, in that she's on the res in a house again, going back through the cycle, and trying to get Meadow back in the circumstance. No. There's no way Meadow can be brought back into the fold of things until there's some answers. That's the parents' problem. That's at the point they want to blame things on, outside forces. Oh, wow, look at how hard we've been working. Oh my God, look at how transparent I am. Look at how comparable to any other suspect in a crime that's turned out to be guilty. And I'm telling you, Daniel's behavior is so suspect at any point in time. It's sad. It makes me sad to even read these. Not that it's feeding back into the mystery, but you know the reason at the end of the day why he's having the need to lie. All right? It has to do with murdering 2 children. And no matter what, there's so many people out there who can't relate to the state of mind that he's in right now. That to them it's just this bizarre quandary and this mystery. But he is in control of all of this information. He's got no problem being out in front of everybody because, again, it gives him a chance to reassert his false claims about the circumstances leading up to Jack and Lily going missing. Something that they're going to hold against him in the court of law. Bonnie Randall, welcome this morning. These idiots never dreamed these kiddos would ever gain this much attention. They made a big mistake with that because, yeah, that deserves a little bit of looking to because, listen, anytime that you call your kids in missing and you guys are tweaking and you're not acting right, it's going to make headline news because here we go again. Here's another set of parents who have done something and brought harm to their own children, which already gets so much attention, so much headline room, And there's a desperate attempt. Like, they didn't think through, in my opinion at this point, they didn't think through the excuse they gave the RCMP. Like, they had to come to something. They had to have some sort of rational explanation for involving the RCMP. And it's in that process, in that story, is kind of where they've got to build their case off of course. In a traditional sense, I mean. They thought the public would care as little as they did. In my opinion, the rumor she was leaving his statement, now she has to get a job, is the intent. It's final. Whoa, jumpers. In your opinion, to the rumor, you mean Malaya, was leaving his statement, now she has to get a job? What, like old Daniel was really bringing home the bucks, it looks like there. Listen, they got no money. The fact that he controls any of the money, that's a signal that he controls all the money, so he's got leverage over her, more power over her in this circumstance. Listen, the fact that he was probably dealing a little bit would make him fiat rich for a short amount of time, but he was an addict as well, so easy come, easy go. Why did Kent and Durwood involve themselves, do you think? Who's Kent? Law's family. Who's Kent? Durwood was put up to this probably because of Daniel. to go and plant all of this diversionary information to keep us all entertained for a little bit and give him an easier, softer landing when he comes and tries to interact with people, trying to grift off his own case here. Good to see you, Joe Neal. Kent is a concerned citizen. Haven't we figured that out yet? I don't know who Kent is exactly. So, Tint was over on the girls' live stream the other day talking it up. Why were there no charges for the drug use at this point? Because that's the least of our worries at this point in time, Crackerjacker. Those are just aggravating factors to a greater issue at hand here. But I understand the simplicity of the question. I mean, you're probably thinking of why can't they have something to hold these son of a bitches on at this point? I don't have that easy answer for you because it's only between the Crown and the detectives. And granted, that's where it should be, all right? Because somebody needs to solve this goddamn thing and be ahead of the information flow before anybody else, you know? But not Daniel. Not Daniel. Like, he doesn't need to be, and he's not the one. He just wants to use that as a piece of cliche or rhetoric to use against everybody to offset any sort of question. He doesn't detail. He just likes to talk about himself in these little circumstances. You know, here we go again. Somebody else talked to Daniel. And here's some messages again. It's the same goddamn thing, same questions. He's not answering anything. Don't expect him to tell you the truth about anything. So why does it's like the moth to the flame in this circumstance. And people will justify it out here doing it because, of course, the RCMP don't have cuffs on him yet, and he's not been charged with anything, even though circumstances would suggest that many people would shy away. But I understand the game. It's just the game, right? Daniel's looking to take advantage of that game out here for a multitude of reasons. Could be to cast doubt. It's not going very well in that circumstance, not in that sense for him, I should say, because he's not presenting anything. It's one thing if you've got an actual argument around everything, if there's something solid that we know that happened. But again, the people that should be knowing that information want you to buy and digest the fact that because they are refusing to answer you and blaming it on fading in and out of sleep at any point in the morning that there's question around, not just waking up in the morning. It's like the kids were up getting ready and all kinds of, having all kinds of breakfast and then just made their way out like it was an everyday thing. They went to get on the bus, but they've never been seen since. The fact that they presented all kinds of these alternative theories in this moment from an investigator standpoint is absolutely suspect. They're the ones with all the answers. Why would they all of a sudden start volunteering up information in a certain way at a certain time? The fact that they're even doing that would suggest that they've got a need to obfuscate something. And in a circumstance with two missing, presumably dead children, I wonder what that could be, guys. That'll be my only insinuation. I'm not talking like the Riddler. I'm not speaking in code. I'm not using water analogies like Daniel. Roxanne, I can't believe that Daniel still got his freedom daily. He should be locked up until he comes forward with the truth. Yo, absolutely he should. Especially when there's two children missing. There's all this these rumors. How is it you fucking... Like, I mean, my emotions say yeah. But then again, you have to do it right. A part of you has to trust the system, even though he's going to work it over in this circumstance. It'd be really disappointing. It would seem to me that these... there's that pedo in my live chat right now. Does somebody want to banned this fucking chomo, this child sex offender that's in my live chat, named Rex Allen Fredrickson, Stagecraft Productions. Jen R, do you want to take the chomo out? Oh, God bless you. Get lost, fruitcake. What are you saying up there, Tammy Burke? Joe Neal, Kent makes no claims either way he interacts with the people in the case neutrally. I don't know who that is, Joe. The rugs may come into play if they are charged in regards to the excuse for this, in your opinion, or if the children were found and a drug trace is found in the system. Your speculation? Yeah, what about all the witness statements? What about all the history in that sense? It seemed like the substances were a major part of their everyday life on both sides for a long time. Oh yeah, Malaya maybe wasn't taking drugs. Listen, it's hard to believe that they even lasted more than a week then. Only Daniel is? Yeah, I'll just imagine. It's not really how it usually goes, and it doesn't really matter. The law isn't going to consider that at that point in time. Oh, in the ditch. It's hilarious how Derpwood wants everybody to believe that knows it all, like he's some sort of uber genius. Oh, ironclad, brother. 1,000% sure. That guy is such an idiot. Absolute idiot. Only Daniel could have introduced him. There's no possible way you can take that guy seriously. He wants to talk all about all of the what ifs. Like he should know that. That should prevent him from opening his mouth. But for some reason, he has to come live and tell you how worried he is and how, dangerous of a lifestyle he's living. And how he's going through it. Hi, Betty. That's how he used to be. He hasn't been like that for a while. I hope not to hear him again. The Jordan statement, you mean A-Balance? They seen them on May 1st, LOL. Yeah, I know that. I do know that. Oh, well, is there more Durwood shit? Crackerjacks? You mean like he's come out again and started talking? Oh, I would have to immediately turn the channel no matter what. I don't blame you. Not like I it's got to happen somewhere. But no way, my emotions can't handle it. I'd have to tune out. Out of there. I get too wound up. I like to watch clips in that sense. So there's more Durwood. Oh, Durwood still does that crap just on his Facebook now? Mama Angie? Oh, okay. So that's interesting then. So he's actively out there spreading disinformation. That's really what he's doing on behalf of Daniel. Oh, maybe he'll have Daniel up as a surprise guest. Maybe he'll even sit beside one another. Have a little live love-in. He's going to be famous. He's going to be notorious. He's going to be so beloved. Look at all the searching that he did for those particular kids. Even when he got in front of the camera for the first time, he made absolutely no sense in front of the camera. Dude was so high. Dude was still tweaking. He's probably been up for days. High AF, they call it nowadays. Just humming. It depends for what. Depends for what, Joe Neal. But oh yeah, I've got extensive interviews, especially, remember my interviews with Jody Sue? I pretty much, that's okay for me. I didn't want to interfere too much. I don't need to interview certain people. especially in these particular situations. Not unless you're there bringing something to the table. But having this revolving door of bullshit artists come up, no, I'm not about that. whatever you need to grow in that sense. I mean, I understand being in that flow, but I'm not about to do it again. It's not my thing. It's not my thing at all. On the love seat with Derwin. Oh, yeah. Oh, Derwin, could you come up in here and talk, please? Oh, tell us everything. Oh, my God. Ironclad, brother. Lori Green. Any family member that's entertaining social media with 2 children that are missing, possibly past, ought to be ashamed of themselves, each and every one of them. Yeah. There's all kinds of people right there ready to jump all down their throats. So crazy. Oh, the hate trains are rolling. For now. But all of a sudden, all those haters can convert into lovers of Daniel. Oh, we support you now, Daniel. Someday. That's what his dream is, his hope is. He's going to get, he's trolling for suckers. It's very sad how both families are not searching for the truth, says Roxanne. Good to see you. I kind of agree with that. Not kind of, but I do. This shows that the kids didn't matter to them that much. They are all narcissists. Well, that comes with the drugs in that sense. That's an effect. That Cheryl, I don't know who she thinks she is or what she thinks she is. Well, I'll tell you right now, Roxanne Kellaway. That girl right there is a psychic. All right? That tells you the level of narcissism and gullibility surrounding these con artist fools, these freaks, these retards. Le retardé. Retardo. It's sad how many suckers are falling for Daniel's BS. He just wants the attention. Oh, yeah. That's pandering, Mama Bear. Don't let it bother you too much. The fact that he's out here doing it should tell you enough. Yeah, lobster. I don't know if that's actually true. They live a pretty simple life if it's living their best lives at this point in time. Well, they certainly don't have any responsibilities. Isn't that nice? Yeah, thinking about getting my kids back. Just thinking about getting her kids back. Well, like when? Just a little bit more time passes. No, there's something definitely wrong in this circumstance. Roxanne, you read today that Malaya wanted the fundraiser to go over in Cheryl's account. Yep, sounds about right so far. So Cheryl can pay for her health issues. Now, how fucking pathetic is this? I'm so happy that it's canceled. Absolutely, Roxanne. Yeah, and let's not forget that Belinda Gray is the one that really brought that all into question, made it something to begin with. High five on her part. What did I just hear? Hello, AB in chat. What are you saying, Shay? There must be something in the water in Nova Scotia. I don't see any hillbillies in on. So it's foreign to me. Monkey mind. I don't think it's the water in Nova Scotia necessarily. Yeah, I'm sad for Meadow too. I wonder how visits are going. I wonder what those visits look like. I wonder if you're allowed to show up high. Tammy, have I heard that ex-cop on Sonny's channel? He is fresh on this. He's gonna review it. Interesting. No, I just saw that she's having an ex-cop on. I never heard of him before. Never seen him before. can't be that interesting if he doesn't know anything about the case. Why don't you get to know the case and then come up? Hey, asshole. Tammy, I thought it was a waste of time. He knew nothing. He's an ex-cop. He's just somebody who used to be a cop. Fucking right, a cop. What were you looking for him to say? It's just Sonny trying too hard, probably. I don't know. I don't really get into those necessarily. I try not to. I try not to get too hard into them. Then I just go nuts. I'd just be nutty. I go and watch other things. What little pyramid? Oh, I like these channels that pop up. Like, I must have watched 6 hours straight. I swear, 6 hours straight of like 2, 3, 4 minute clips of Curb Your Enthusiasm, season 12. Fuck, is that funny? I love Larry David, but it's pretty good. It's pretty funny. And of course, they're a bit of an addiction. You know how good they are. You're like, oh shit, I gotta watch the next one. And they lay it out right. The video's just perfect, and it just lays it right there when the joke's done. So all of these bits, I love that stuff. Made me laugh. I guess I don't need to go buy season 12 then. But I did enjoy getting to some old school Seinfeld. Like, Seinfeld's channel came up, and Seinfeld's not for everybody, but I love Seinfeld. But so it's the actual Seinfeld channel, whoever owns the rights to play Seinfeld, and so they re-edit up like 46 minutes and 60-minute bits of like all Elaine, or all, you know, focused around different characters or different traditions around the particular series in the first place, and those got interesting. Fuck, they could take up a little bit of time too. If Cheryl's a psychic, she can play the lottery monkey, mine said. Well, why isn't she throwing some longs out on the stock market? Why isn't she shorting the market? She can call the tops. Make us all rich. Make us all rich. Maybe her psychic ability isn't all it's cracked up to be in that sense. She needs to be fucking high in order to connect to it. Last time I got high like that, all kinds of shit dropped out of the sky and hit me with some microwave weapons. I don't do that again. Like some sort of dystopian, future type shit. It was happening now. Well, way back then. You got to stay on the straight and narrow, or else they'll off you under the thumb of the security services. She insulted the guest ex-cop by minimizing his experience. I know you haven't been a cop for like 25 years. You guys fucking have all kinds of things to complain about, I swear, but I love you guys. She insulted the guest ex-cop by minimizing his experience. I know you haven't been a cop for like 25 years. Oh, you guys. You guys. You're the fucking guys who watch it. You know? You guys are not... Now you hate watching it. You hate watching this stream, and then you're coming over here and it's leaking into my stream. It's affecting my stream. But only it is kind of... It's funny, but... How else do you learn, you know? How else do you learn? She's doing it. She's eager. Sonny's eager to put on a good show. Give her that. Cheryl is yet another hanger on inserting herself in the investigation. In your opinion? Oh, absolutely, Drippy. We're going to love to hate on this biatch. This fucking weirdo. Oh, yeah, it's perfect. You can see it now. Anything for a little bit of notoriety and fame. We're going to give that to you. We're going to respond accordingly. We're going to throw her all over 4chan. Just, you know what I mean? There's certain attention that you don't necessarily want. And these people are wanting it. Oh, you guys, well, think about all of the hate that Sunny gets in that sense. She does get a lot of hate. But what do you think it's going to come? I mean, listen, I know how people react and respond to certain things. But, it doesn't prevent people or stop people from trying or doing things. Would I do it? Absolutely not. It'll be out of my character. I couldn't even think about doing some of the stuff that she would do. But that doesn't mean she shouldn't do it. I appreciate things. I appreciate the things that I wouldn't do. It doesn't mean necessarily anything. It'd be boring if we were all the same in that circumstance. But I don't necessarily think that she's doing anything wrong other than driving certain people up the fucking wall. Mr. Heavy saying she's a hateful witch. You guys have all been kicked out. You guys don't know about staying in. She's probably a hall monitor is what she is. You guys are complaining to me about the hall monitor here on YouTube. It could be worse. Like, listen, at the end of the day, I can't hate on Sunny because they spread the right message at the end of the day. They're skeptical. They don't buy any of the story. And that's, at this point in time, what can you say negative about it? She's trying to make it interesting, and in that trying to make it interesting and trying to brand herself, she should separate whatever it is she's trying to do from associating it to the missing kids, is my advice, if anything. But that's not up to me. Anytime that you're associating missing kids with branding and somebody paying for something under the guise of God knows what, that's a scam. That's some of the oldest. So just because you don't recognize it or don't intend it as such, many other people out there recognize it as such. There's nothing wrong with trying to sell merch or raise money in that sense, but why does one have to be associated with the other? Can't you separate your channel from the content, the subject matter? Not that she's not. I'm just saying in general, right? Yeah, Charmaine's cool. I don't have any problem with the girls. None at all. I like shit like that. Like, it's interesting at the end of the day. It's interesting enough for people to be feeling some sort of way. And that's a better start. That's a good start, believe it or not. Something to work with. Like, she has the Pisnary, she has the gumption, the gall to go to great lengths to try to bring information about a topic that needs to be talked about. So who the fuck am I to shit all over somebody else over how it is that they do in that sense, right? At the end of it, once you've been around for a while, you recognize when not to say anything. It's probably better just to let people learn on their own instead of try to give them advice in certain things. You don't want to get involved. Stay in your lane type of thing. Unless it's share. Unless it's share, then you can scrutinize the hell out of the Sharemeister all you want. Voices behind my balls. But in this circumstance, I'm just, even when I say share could do it too. I don't care. I just like to throw a dig on share. You got to find somebody to, even if it's not even legitimate, to beef with, right? If you have to beef a little bit to make it interesting for the people watching, give it like a secondary theme. That's all it is. But yeah, she does go too far. But God bless her, she's trying to, because it's a really basic form of journalism at the end of the day. And I appreciate that. It's like, it has more to do with the Fifth Estate in its natural form than anything that you're going to get on mainstream media in that sense. Even though it comes with a bunch of shit that makes you want to puke because it's not your style. Like, what if she loved fucking My Little Ponies? What if she was a brony type of thing? That would make us puke too, but she'd still be talking about the same information. So, but she's saying the right things. You got to love that. Yeah, you know what a brony is, Explore Core? That's the fan group of My Little Ponies. But the guys are bronies. I don't know what you call the girls. You bet Justin is a brony? Probably Mr. Hemi. I don't even hold that shit against him, though. I think that's funny. It takes all kinds, man. It takes all kinds. As long as you're peaceful and reasonable and rational, and they are. They're just in love with bringing content to people. And that's fun at the end of the day. It's that fifth estate aspect, and nobody recognizes it as such. Not the CBC show, okay? That's the Fifth Estate, the TV show, is kind of contradictory to being on the mainstream media, government-funded mainstream media in the first place. The Fifth Estate is the complete opposite of that. Citizen journalism in that sense, no matter how crazy it is. Hey, Daphne. But it's the emotion, it's the raw facts that keep us all on the same line. That's what connects us all. We all have a desire to know what happened. No matter what perspective or whose story it comes from. Lori Green, hey, I'm flogging a dead horse, but it's allowed. We're not fans of her, Lori. Okay. Do you know what keeps me that way? The fact that I don't watch her that much, dude. Like, fuck. If anything, why am I going to sit and try to catch up? It's got to be pretty special. There's some, I'm not going to say every time, but I talk about this case to death. I talk about it to death. I need a break every now and then to rejuvenate. So to go in, unless there's actually something crucial ever happening, which never really happens, or you're in a mood, you gotta clear your thoughts. So one can only do so much of one thing in this sense. But maybe I do sound like I'm flip-floppy. I'm just trying to be honest. I'm trying to be as transparent as Daniel. I'm kidding. I'm trying to be transparent in that sense. It was Daniel that said she gave birth to KFC Bucket. What? Drippy? Sunny didn't make the photo of Durwood. It was sent to her as a joke. There were 3 versions. I love the RCMP. I love Trudeau and a pride flag. So Durwood doesn't even look like that photo that was going around of him. That's a good thing, though. He was trying to be as anonymous as possible in that sense, but at the same time saying way too much from a perspective of what's nothing less than the suspect. Okay, stop. What? No, you don't need that right now. Hold on, my friends. One moment. Oh, yeah. I'm back here with you all, friends. Let me pick up where I was leaving off there. What's going on, Lori Lynn? This is the first time I followed anything like this. I hope with all my heart they are found, at least laid to rest. That would be ideal. Daphne's Case File's got a good channel, too. I say arrest. She's hot right now. People are just finding out how good she is. When they're subbing up, I've been watching. So she's saying in my chat, I say arrest the parents for child endangerment or child abandonment, and they will start talking in your opinion. Absolutely they will. Criminal negligence causing death. How about criminal negligence? Because they've admitted to the negligence that led to the children to walk out the door, even on their story, admitted to absolute bare minimum. But from the Crown's perspective, if you're going to charge them for that, you're not too far away from capital murder charges here. Child murder. So, I mean, if I was the investigators in this circumstance, I'm wanting nothing less than full capital murder charges. But I'm not savvy enough legally to understand, other than knowing that you got to do it right the first time. You can't fuck up. So I don't know. It all comes down, how that goes. What the Crown feels that they can. The Crown will set a precedent as to the criteria that they need to meet in order to satisfy. Being confident that they're going to actually get the win in court. And they've got so much available to them already if they need to go ahead with a no body. But it's all going to depend on how confident they are of finding out what happened. It would depend on all of the evidence and its relevant or how relevant it is to the situation. We're not in control of all of that stuff. Daniel doesn't know all of that. He wants to pretend that he's still looking for his kids in that circumstance. And in the same breath, admitted to the story being completely false no matter what. So the story that you led on was completely false. I'm pretty sure that they're going to have a problem with that. The cop's biggest problem is going to be trying to determine what's fact from bullshit. So they have to go and do things that take them longer. You can't rely on any of the people involved. But yeah, I agree with you, Daphne. Arrest somebody. Do something in that sense to get people talking. One moment, please. No, I believe Malaya knows exactly why she's being silent. She knows why she's not acting like a concerned parent. Absolutely she does. She knows just when to dodge those questions too, but you don't even need that. That's just secondary, cumulative evidence. Drippy, you're saying if they charge right now, they can just diagnose Daniel with whatever personality he suffers from and blame it, all the weird stuff on that. I don't know why there's any need to pin any psychological issue when there's rugs involved. They're two separate things. You're not going to be able to ever determine until he gets a diagnosis, if there is one, but everything is induced by the methamphetamine in that circumstance. Okay, it's all induced, self-induced psychoses, drug-induced psychoses. Turns him into a fucking maniac. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde like. And he Dr. and Jekyll, Mr. Hyde those kids to death. And you can hear clear indicators of the mistreatment in their statements. Absolutely you can. The way that they speak about Jack and Lily. They cared not for them. Daphne, have you ever heard of the Haley Cummings case? It happened in 2009. Yeah, I did actually. She still hasn't been found. But they got the people involved charged for rugs. It's similar to this case here. Yeah, I've got, sadly, a lot of... when it comes to the no body, I've got a few cases that are similar to this one in Canadian case law. But until we know a little bit more, like, I'm still highly suspicious about there being far more to this little living arrangement and scenario and torture chamber that these guys were living in at that certain, you know, I'm a little bit more suspicious, especially that they're all a little bit skittish. Could be just me overthinking it, but I think there's more. Like, what sort of situation and scenario escalated it to a point to taking 2 children's lives? Like, you've got to have to force your mind to go there if you want to consider them, and it's not always that nice, right? It's like airplanes. Slim, what are you talking about? Like deprivation of oxygen? Like oxygen deprivation? Is that what you're talking about? An airplane psychosis? Like not having enough air to breathe at altitude? Fucking drugs are far worse than that. That's dangerous, by the way. You could fall asleep and never wake up again. She did write in lipstick on the mirror, "I will always love you forever," before she left. Lobster, that's bullshit. That's a bullshit Daniel claim. Don't be putting that stuff in my chat. No, she didn't. Belinda is telling a different story. She said the police told her no rugs. Who's fooling who here? First of all, they're not under any obligation to be telling you. Like, you're asking a random cop. So who really knows at that point? We can all see that they're involved. How can the investigators not see it as well? That would be rather narrow-minded of them. Yeah, what do you think about that, Daphne? So many different family members living there. They're probably all screwing over the government in that sense, to a degree. Having different mailing addresses, trying to make it look like there's different residences out of one. But still, there'll still be an arrangement because Janie owns the lot. It's not like it's Daniel's at this point. No, I don't actually wonder that at all, Daphne. I don't think it's about the kids getting into something, accidentally overdosing, and they disposed of their bodies. There's no need to go to such extent. An accident happened. It would have unfolded a lot differently. And addicts don't let kids get into the stash because why would you be wasting your drugs? Okay? They value those drugs more than anything, or those rugs more than anything, and it's really usually unlike even an environment as chaotic as that for that to actually happen. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's down my list so far. No, this is much more, in my opinion, there's too much talk about, we'll say, domestic violence. Too much control. Too many conversations about that in particular, about the rugs. You wouldn't have to know anything more than that to understand what sort of things put a stress on that family. And the same thing that happens every single time. First, it's money. And I couldn't think that their drug habit was slowing down any. You have 4 of Janie's brothers? Yeah, so it's a nice little club around there. God knows, that's a lot of land to search around there. 4 bodies in that sense. There's got to be a better way of calling these fuckers out and trying to get some sort of answer out of them. They'll want the Holy Grail. They'll want the body locations. They want to know and recover those bodies. That's usually always their primary target. No, Daphne, yeah, you're definitely right. They're not organized in that sense. Like, there's no possible way. Like, unfortunately, the way that they talk about the kids, that takes any sort of doubt away in my mind that they didn't personally bring violence towards those kids. And they're all already so close in that sense. It would be just in their second nature to carry a lie like this and keep it within themselves. It would be typical of a group of individuals like this. Not necessarily that you have to charge anybody else other than the people that were living on that property. And you charge Janie with accessory to all of this as well. Criminal negligence causing death. That's at the bare minimum at this point. That would be probably very easy for them to prove, and that would probably be a holiday on behalf of Malaya and Daniel, because they know what really happened. That's really downgrading the seriousness and the nature of what occurred there. But how much of it are you going to be able to prove? I'm not in a position to tell us that. You can only really assume. Or after the fact, right? After there's discovery and things like that in the court of law, but we're not there. We're not even there yet. What's going on, Lady Lolo? Miss K, psychosis, my clients, I've been in the room with the devil. Jesus, aliens, I've been introduced to Eminem and his secretary, a whole grand final group. Oh my God. Letting in the psych ward here this afternoon. Yeah, Daphne, I guess only they really know what they have in that sense. I understand why that's important, but it's still... We just have our emotions wrapped up in it. We want something to happen quickly, and that's really... It's almost FOMO, fear of missing out kind of sense. It's just illogical, but it's natural human to get yourself all emotionally attached to these children and wanting to see the best thing happen. Especially when there's so much deceit. Yeah, Lily, you're agreeing with Tammy, are you? They want the bodies so that they know what happened to the children through the way of like autopsy and things like that, so they know the degree of abuse that happened instead of having to fill in the blanks. In an ideal world, I think, it would be silly not to point that out, right? But the more time goes by, the unless they're going to be able to extract some sort of confession out of them. And I highly doubt that, considering the bullshit cockamamie story that they've came out with, that they're all of a sudden going to do a full 180 and go back and start admitting to everything. They're going to see the light. I don't think so. I think they'll have to do this the hard way, but that's me speculating. It's possible, Daphne. Yeah, I don't believe that at all, Drippy. You have your doubts that Janie heard them that morning and think that the pothole story may have been a ploy to say Jack had to have made that boot print that morning. In your opinion, it's possible. Don't you think it's bizarre that there's only one blueprint all around out there after somebody was already hard at work raking over that built-up driveway. That driveway is so soft, and it's probably about 24 to 30 inches thick in spots. Like, you could dig down so deep, you wouldn't have to worry about it. It's that soft, and it's that worked over where you probably wouldn't notice. So maybe it was, maybe it's not. I think it's time to fucking check, bring in the ground penetrating radar. Absolutely. Call down to the university. They'll have some. The archaeology department. A little lawnmower that they roll over it and create a 3-dimensional, subterranean map in a sense. But I mean, it's so bizarre to me. I'm not even suggesting that, but it's hard not to, right? It's hard not to think that. It's easy to rule it out after, you would have to bring that in. But maybe there's better leads. I would have to think that they have better leads. And they built their case around the last time that they were seen in public and are busy building their own particular timeline, separate from anything that anybody else has brought up. And when it's all said and done, compare the stories. And she should be pretty easy to paint a narrative to that for a jury, if you're a prosecutor. Yeah, Norbeaster, Janie didn't hear them. God knows what she's really trying to communicate in those interviews. I think she's trying to get us to believe that she heard them, but she doesn't want to actually have those words come out of her mouth in a direct manner. She talks around things and insinuates it, then wraps them up and throws them out as a question, like the Riddler from Batman, like Daniel's doing. No, Laurie Green, don't even like the word accident in this circumstance. Like, and by what? There's 2 kids missing, presumably dead. The last word that comes out of your mouth should be accident and then covering up. Like this is some sort of Hollywood movie when all people can talk about is how abusive the parents are, how detached, and how blasé they are, and physically violent with the kids. The kids have black eyes, and you're not suggesting that the violence couldn't have escalated, and that's the most likely, probable explanation for this. I have to challenge you on that. Show me evidence of whatever an accident means to you, Lori. Like, I know what you kind of want it to mean, but in my mind, it's a psychological trap just to pawn it off on the term narcissist because it's a label for somebody's actual behavior and reasons thereby. It's just a label, a scapegoat. You're saying one of them put their hand in the boot to make the print to try and back up the kids were there that morning. Yeah, yeah, that's a little... Even in the mainstream media, even the people that were conversing about it are a little skeptical about the evidence because the evidence that they collected suggested a pattern of being planted more so than being relevant to the kids. Where the boot prints were found, how they were found, no tangibility. There's no direct link or rationale context as why that would be a piece of evidence why it would be a piece of evidence other than it supposedly belonged. You could see the star, but the fact that there's no context is pointing out a pattern of a staged scenario. Like you read about murderers planting evidence to throw the police off in that sense. Could be anything. Yeah, I would have to go along the lines, and they recognize that. And, because generally when there's one boot print, like a left one, there's a right one in a direction. Not just a rando boot print in the middle of a bunch of freshly graded gravel like a baseball diamond. There's one cleat mark. One boot print. And that's supposed to be good enough to satisfy us that's a clue. These people want to talk about, the family want to talk about this as it being a clue. It's nothing but indicating the fact that you assholes staged this, what would otherwise be a crime scene. But it's okay, we don't think you cleaned up that well. Hey, Lori Lynn. It's so obvious that it's sad. Crime Story Mama blew up a photo with Jack's black eye. He did have bruises under his cheekbone. I saw that. And under his chin. Yeah, I saw that too. There's more than one as well. The news interviewer looked a little afraid to speak to Janie. Well, she's probably jumping down her throat. Yeah, that they do seem a little bit standoffish. I would have to imagine that they're all, thank God that they have a job to do. You can focus on your job and getting out of there. You have to go and do this piece. It is. Yo, Katie. Personally, I think Janie felt guilty for disliking the kid so much. I don't know, man. That's not the way. I don't even care. Like Janie's a different cat in that sense. I don't think she's a very easy person to get along with. She probably was a little bit perturbed by the fact that, the parents weren't looking after the kids so much. You would think. But what it makes you really think when they come out and tell you, and of course it's just their words, but when they suggest that their usual, routine was Janie calling them on the phone to let them know when the kids were outside. So it just suggests that it was a pattern of behavior, maybe, if that's even remotely true. I'm sure she complained all the time, but again, I'm careful and I don't really care that much because of the information in its source. I don't care because it came from Malaya in Daniel's conversation. I just care enough about it to joke a little bit and refute it. When you have two kids missing and the parents act anything but a certain way, it's suspicious. And there's a reason for that. Never mind all of the shit that comes with it. Never mind all the drama that they bring with it. It's no drama that's coming from us. We're eagerly waiting for the next bit of information that you usually drop. You really haven't had a need to be on the defense at any point in time. Because remember, you're such an eager beaver helping to find these kids. Wow, that lasted long. What a bunch of nonsense. Those kids really walked out those doors, you would have found them. The fact that you can't find them, there would only be one real traumatic issue at that point in time. And Malaya's little loop, her interview, is a real indicator. I can't get away from that. Whether she's being put up to covering for Daniel, knowing what he's capable of. Like, it takes a certain breed to be able to murder two children. This is a cold-hearted killer. This is the worst of the worst. So we already have been introduced to a few different scenarios that they presented themselves through their language that they spoke about, their disdain towards the children, the contempt that they felt for them. So when the cameras aren't on, what is it and how is it they're treating them, and how do they keep them in line in that sense? Especially Let's leave drugs out of it for a second. So they've already mentioned the word discipline. Like, how much discipline do you got to be putting on a 4 and a 6-year-old? I don't know. I don't think I've ever disciplined a kid. But you know what that means. That means physical punishment. Some sort of weird, bizarre torture that he's going to be instilling upon these children multiple times. And it's probably escalated to a point where one of them lost their lives and he had to off the other one in order, because he planned right there to get away with it. So then he went and proceeded to murder the second child in order to not have any witnesses. It's hard not to imagine that scenario playing out in our minds at this point. And that takes a certain element of commitment by way of the killer. It's hard not to believe the physicality, because everything else in the scenario would suggest that the kids were suffering from physical abuse. So it's got to be the same. It's got to rhyme. It's got to be the same. It's no accident, because we think that there's drug use involved. You don't even have to introduce that. Don't even have to bring it in. Don't even have to bring it in. So how is it this case is any different than any other circumstance out there in this scenario where the parents have done wrong, they don't want to admit it, it's escalated into the worst case scenario? Or it's beyond our imagination evil, and they're both involved, and it's really much more premeditated than we would even have reason to be suspicious of at this point, like with information far beyond our knowledge base at this point. There could be some cockamamie, weirdo, fucking cult-like mentality at work here. I don't think so. But then you could introduce the substances and you know. But it seems to me, Maine, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the $10 super chat. I appreciate that so much. So just in my mind, it's hard to escape. Like, you can't, there's really no need to suggest an accident in cover up when you don't have any information that would suggest any of that. Oh, they went to great lengths so that they wouldn't be held accountable. No. No, these people are desperately lying. And it's always because of the worst possible scenario in the sense, especially when there's children involved. You know, children or mini adults, they're so fragile. They're beautiful little creatures. They can be annoying, but at the end of the day, they're fantastic. Why you should be resentful towards them is beyond me. Children are our future. Daniel, you know this, man. One effect of the rugs as well is its dissociative effect. He's so able to lie in the circumstance just to save his own hide. It's come second nature. That's part of the, I guess, depending on what side you're on, part of the perk, I guess. It's not a perk because he's emotionally disconnected and he's trying to physically connect those emotions back in front of the camera, which makes him look suspicious. You damn well know why we're all so interested in the circumstance out here, because of the level of guilt that everybody can plainly see. Show me another case out there where everybody's been wrong. Of course, people can be wrong, but we're at a stage of this case where everybody can recognize evil for where it stands. That's just an easy way of explaining it, but they recognize the guilty parties and the probabilities of what has happened here and where the suspects actually are. Like, think about all of the other cases, like Gannon Stotch and things like this, who people have went to great efforts to hide their tracks. And the sort of ridiculousness in the moment that a lot of it seems. Yeah, WTT, good to see you. Yeah, I heard you guys. I stop in and read the chat all the time. Congratulations. You have to have money. You can't get blood from a stone, son. Any excuse to get my attention. Child sex offenders. 80 Katie, they've been hiding what's been going on in that home for a long time. Yeah. Well, admittedly, 2 years. Could you imagine being with them in that hellhole for since Meadow was born, under the influence? Like, you don't think that that's a bit of an issue? So it's been an ongoing thing, and Wade would back that up with his comments, right? They're too busy using people. You know how, especially think about how crazy of an environment that would have been with two parents actively in addiction and all of the shit that comes with it. Most of their time was going into hiding their own activities and shutting out the rest of the world. So they had to have been very difficult to approach in that sense, with these brief moments of sobriety where Malaya would call home in order to try to get rescued. Like, that's where the danger, in my mind, it goes so much more deeper after you have that enabler in your life. You know, like if you're the person that you're with in that relationship is an addict like yourself, oh man, that's not a good thing. Yeah, isn't that so close, Daphne? All of this was almost averted. I can't get that out of my mind, that U-Haul. And for Malaya not to leave when she had the U-Haul coming for her the day before tells me she was addicted, just like Daniel, in your opinion. Yeah. Yeah, she's constantly fighting that self-loathing that comes with the addiction in that sense, and she knows that she needs to be rescued because she's a human at the end of it, but she's too wrapped up in that addiction to do herself any good. She had a place to go. It was probably at that point where she's realizing, she's already fucked over she's already screwed over Patty, for all of that money on her credit card. So she's probably, it's not a preferable place to go necessarily back into these environments because they're probably a little hostile towards her and judgmental. So from a distance, you're probably having second guesses. I'm thinking she's just hooked on his crank. And that's all part of the control he had over, or still has over, Malaya. Aaron Smith, you're watching a video yesterday where it was suggested Jack was unalived and Lily was bundled away alive, so she couldn't speak. Not sure what I think about that. I think that's nonsense. Like, what? I don't know about that theory. Neither of them are alive. They're not hiding any kids, and they're not rehoming them for concern out of their well-being. They don't even care about themselves. Why would they care about anybody else? Like, that's all been exposed and validated by Wade. Doesn't matter what you guys necessarily believe, that's what it is. The question is whether he told the RCMP the same thing, and they can verify that. To us, we're just satisfying our curiosity. But of course that's got to be known on the inside. Oh yeah, that sort of thing happens. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, Laurie Green. but we don't have anything. It's really unnecessary. It's more complicated and dynamic of a scenario than the simple one that was lying in our face at this point in time. Is all I'm trying to emphasize. I'm not trying to come down on anybody's one belief or their angle. It's just in my mind, and then I get all wound up about it. But yeah, there's been situations where the caregiver has given children some sort of sedated or illicit drug in their drink to try to control their behaviors. And the toxicology report comes back, and then, the interview picks up. I've seen that before a couple times. But in this circumstance, I think it's not as plausible. Because a fool would know that you're creating yourself a greater problem. There has to be a reason that's driving them to be needing to stick to such a bullshit narrative, a bullshit story. Could be hiding a murder charge, capital murder on child charge. Is it covering up more? Probably. The risk level is there. We just don't have any confirmation because we don't have all of the evidence that's relevant to the situation as it was given, because we're not the cops. We're not a pig. Thank you for reminding us, Julia. Julia Hayden says, in domestic abuse relationships, leaving is likely the time you're most likely is its highest risk. Yeah. I mean, in this circumstance, it was the kids. Whatever it was, Malaya didn't want to have the strength that she needed to go and remove herself from that situation, because it would add further complications, distancing herself from the substances that she was being groomed with in that sense. She was being controlled with in that environment. Well, the only thing that I can think of, and we get it from one perspective, Aaron Smith. I mean, it's a fair point. If you're sitting here reading a murder mystery or reading a novel, knowing that there is a definitive way out of this story, it's a lot easier to speculate in an accurate sense like that. These people are lying so much, they need to fill up their timeline, and when they go in front of the cameras. And we're really talking about that sort of information from her interview with the CBC. It could be just that she is so stuck on the story that she told the RCMP. She is picking something and talking about it, and we don't exactly know what its relevance is at this point in time. Maybe there is. You wouldn't be wrong. Maybe there is. Maybe there is something to it. Like, I'm suggesting that possibility as well, only because even in their circumstance in disposing of the bodies, it had to have been one of the short list of choices in your mind in an extreme moment of stress. How the hell am I going to get rid of these bodies where no one's going to see? These guys love taunting the cops and hiding in plain sight and acting suspicious, but just calling it something completely opposite from what it actually is. It wouldn't surprise me that they're hiding on that particular property would be incredibly stupid, I would expect, because usually burying bodies is a forever type of thing. And you want that forever type of thing to be as far away from your current situation, because it would be an added stress level of always having to know that, they could come at any time and have a reason to search your place for obvious reasons, whereas they would have no reason to go search some random place, and it would take them a lot of discernment to go and try to figure that out. But we don't know we're just going off Of course, we're just speculating. You could build a better time frame around knowing the gaps in his electronic devices, when they were stationary, when he had the chance. I would really like to see the RCMP's timeline, the one that they actively go by with the skeptical mind. Yeah, Roxanne, you think right there? You think that she's giving it up right in front of the cameras? I mean, I would be surprised if it was. I would be surprised even for me knowing and onto them and how guilty they are. I would be surprised on just how stupid that would be. You know? But it's just those crazy things that work too. Like, it wouldn't surprise me either. It's like, you know what? But I'm telling you, I wouldn't actually say that I believe that right now, though. But I guess, I mean, I'm trying to look at it from a different perspective. I mean, you're right. I mean, it obviously came up for some reason, and it's obviously got to be in the RCMP's narrative and in the timeline that they gave them, because we don't know the context or why she is insisting that, or why she keeps going back to this particular place, because this is her whereabouts. This is supposed to account for her alibi. Like, how is it she's not adding any of the context and we are to, again, fill in the blanks like these guys like to answer questions in the form of a question, like the Joker. Like, we're being led on here. I get what you're saying. Yeah, maybe you're right. Like, could we really be that close? If that was an option, you wouldn't think that it would be very difficult for the police to pick up on that and just go in and search. But then they would really be selling the farm over whether or not you think that just would have been. Well, look what it meant when they brought in ground penetrating radar in the Orrin and Orson West case. And by the way, we only speculated about the physical violence in that home. And think about the disciplinary actions in that house. We based our opinions early on were bang on. Not just here, I'm not bragging about that. But what I'm saying is, being through that case from A to Z, you can see the parallels in the people that are getting to know the case. You know what I'm talking about, the live chats and things like this, where we are in perspective to the things that we think we know and the things that are now fact. That time's come and gone with that particular case, of course. Now, looking back, I admit that I didn't pick out the physical violence as early. It was just a no-brainer in that sense. You could tell by the types of people that Trezell and his family were, that they were authoritarian in that sense. As soon as you start adding authoritarianism to child rearing and somebody else's kids that aren't yours, especially kids that are in the system, unwanted children that are otherwise without a family and people who love them, remind yourself about them every Christmas, friends. I mean, they get the low end of the totem pole. They get the short end of the stick. They get beat on, isolated, targeted, because in that sense they're vulnerable every time, and kids are vulnerable regardless. But these particular children even more so, because they had liars for parents who only created the illusion and worked off of other people's false presumptions about them being and caring about their children. And it not, the Ruggs were in control. At one time they probably did, or they were able to empathize in that sense, which is usually important to do. Yeah, Amethyst Girl, I mean, I appreciate your speculative nature. It would seem to me, in all of this, my short answer to that question, I probably be that because of the physical violence involved, there's still a certain element of control going on. She probably hasn't been pressured to turn on him yet, is your easy answer. There's still this ongoing false narrative out there, and it's probably working to work itself out till there's no other alternative than to go and further question them in a way. And also, you probably have a reason to go question them. They're probably waiting for those moments. I don't know. You're asking me why they would cover for one another? Because they're both going down for this, no matter what. And that's probably what's being conditioned into her mind. But we're only speculating on what happened. You can bet damn well that those kids are dead. She's the biological family, probably Daniel's hands. He's the man of the trailer. But I don't think that you're disregarding the thought. You're just suggesting that they both killed one in that sense. Possibly, like, I'm open in suggesting it's probably far more evil than my imagination can even conceive at this point, because there's so much that we don't know, as Daniel himself likes to point out, right? And that's more or less taunting you with telling you that he knows the information that nobody else knows. Oh, I can't tell you because it's between me and the investigators. He resembles more like somebody like the Zodiac Killer. He's playing with people. He's taunting the cops in that sense. He knows the cops are suspicious of him, and he's fucking with them because he thinks he's a badass. Boy, that's going to come back to haunt him, I would expect. Why even put yourself in that situation? Unnecessary. But again, when he's trying to stay ahead of everything as well. You know, considering if he is actually as guilty as we think he is, and he is. I'm comfortable. How can you not be? You're camping in Nova Scotia right now, Amethyst Girl? And I overheard the people next door talking about the case. I couldn't see them, but they started arguing, and the man became very loud and yelled, 1,000% ironclad, and sped off. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. That'd be Durwood O'Grady. You're listening to people conspire on the campground, Amethyst Girl. Where are you camping out? You camping out near Daniel in Lansdowne Station? Drippy, I suspect Granny Patty wasn't iced out because her pocketbook was open. Right, Slim? I think you're crazy, Katie. That's about the least of my idea. There's no maybe there. I highly doubt it, Katie. But unless you're being sarcastic. Yeah, I love that. He was thinking like that a long time ago, Daphne. He was way out ahead of the people before anybody got suspicious of him. He was already saying that he wasn't a suspect. Measuring it by the times allegedly he talks to the RCMP on the phone. That's his measurement, which isn't even a fucking answer, by the way. So he's got no actual answer to that question. He's got no rationale behind it, either than he wants to be out in front of the camera telling everybody that he didn't kill Jack and Lily. There's some of that reverse psychology going on in this case already. Right out in the open. That tells you how guilty this son of a bitch is. Yeah. Oh, that Derpwood. I can't even handle it anymore. I thought... If Lily and Jack being harmed or Red Rum, she would never stop screaming. I think something happened to Jack first. That's a good observation, Explore Corps. Over how excitable and allegedly noisy Lily was in carrying on in that sense. Little girls scream when they get excited when they're playing and things like that. And of course, that was frowned upon there around what do they call it? They should call that the, oh shit, it resembled more like a concentration camp than anything. Nihilism. Daniel loves he's playing Super Cop Spy Man right now. Well, that's what he's pretending to be. That's not actually what he's doing. He's probably still tweaking out. When we all know they're laughing behind his back. Oh, the cops, you mean, Nihilism? Yeah. He's just building the case. It's strength. What do they call it? He'll be strengthening the case against himself. Yeah, Layla, you use Ironclad 1000% sarcastically now? Yeah, it sticks out in my mind too that Durwood is something else. Derp. Daniel is loving knowing more than people. Yeah, you can see it. You can see how he loves it. You can tell. God. Jesus. It's so bad. I know. But to a liar's credit, you still have to go through the motions. You still have to go through it. He's down there, boots on the ground. He's trenching it out. He's just calling it something else. We know what he's actually doing. A man listening to Derpwood and Janie's video over and over. I was having nightmares. Oh my God. Thank God people started questioning that early on. His story didn't last more than 3 days. It was so bad. But it's also the way he told it as well. Like he's got con man in his voice through and through. Like, is it really necessary to put all those trailers on 1000%? You shouldn't need to be that sure. That just sounds to be more like hopium, I guess. But again, it was for a different reason, right? They're working over the crowd. And yeah, you know what? I think Derpwood was up there dry begging. He's looking for a place to dry beg. Trying to get himself a fat stack. He's working on stacking his, wad. Yeah. Oh, but yes, Daphne. Oh, they don't think I'm suspicious anymore. That's like George. He treats this case like George Costanza in that sense. It's just so fucking out there. How it's okay. It's okay, everybody. I passed the lie detector test. Like he's really grasping. Like even the interviewer had to ask you, well, how do you know that you're no longer a suspect in this case? Oh, absolutely not. Nope, not. So how could you not acknowledge the fact that you were a suspect in this circumstance, no matter what? Like, talk about lacking any sort of legal awareness in this moment on his side. He's more than willing to make himself look like a complete fucking idiot in front of a camera just to utilize the power of suggestion. Because all that matters to him is he's up there denying any sort of culpability into this, which is the biggest giveaway, man. That's a huge tell at this point. Like, fuck, who was even talking about the kids being murdered? The only person that suggested that was Daniel publicly when he brought it up and said he was absolutely not guilty of murdering these children. Oh, that should be a good indicator of what's coming down the line, I would think. I liked it better when he, at that point, put it all on Malaya. Like, so first off, when you put there's so much more to this case that people don't know. So suggesting that one, he would know. And fuck, the cops aren't going to like that very much. And he's trying to make it look like what would otherwise describe to be a key suspect, a prime suspect in a disappearance of 2 children. He's twisting what the meanings actually are and calling it something it's not, and that's his real shtick through all of this. But it's so blatantly obvious. At times it's comedic, but frustrating at the same time, because it's a constant reminder that there's a reason that this individual is being this deceptive at this point in time. but it's a little premature way back like a month into it to be on the CBC suggesting that the person that was just sharing your house with you is in fact culpable, right in line with Durwood's story out here. And she's guilty, and she's the one hiding all of this knowledge at this point in time. Like, think about how false that really was in that moment. And they indicate now that it's not illegal to lie to the media, by the way. What sort of shit is going on here? Oh, man. Indicating that they would otherwise know where that line is drawn. Making it more likely that, from a layman, that they can indicate where that lie is in the moment. That you're being lied to. And they're bringing up all of these scenarios in their language. Anne Marie, good to see you. What I thought was weird, says Daphne, Derpwood said, if Daniel had to hide the kids' bodies, I know he didn't kill them. It's just him going off. His whole motive for being up there was to put a positive spin on Daniel. He needs some street cred. He needs a wingman to go up there and talk him up. There's nobody out there speaking on behalf of the parents or the family in this circumstance, so he's got to rely on his own internal goons to make it look like he just met Daniel and he's a fantastic individual. And he knows for a fact, even though he's in no position to be knowing anything in this circumstance, other than that he's incredibly biased in that moment, or a complete, absolute fucking lay retard, that he's biased on the side of Daniel, making it more suspect that he's out there assisting in the cover-up. Maybe there's other people involved. Maybe he's doing the family a solid. All kinds of people are probably in on it. Listen, it's not hard to get in on this. All you have to do is tell him that you know what happened. Look, we know you're guilty, asshole. Go and extort the shit out of him. You know fucking well he's guilty. Instead of becoming a real burr in his ass, you're going to take him for all his fucking money every day. I don't encourage that sort of behavior, by the way. That would be how the mafia did it. Buddy, yeah. Let's see what you said. Nihilism, most definitely. Where are you, Nile? Let me see. Shawnigan Lake. Is there a land dispute over uranium in that area? No, I don't think so. Monkey Mind, no, Daniel and Justin are dating his own mom. They take turns. How do you know that, Monkey Mind? Did Janie ever get her Timu lingerie? I wonder if Daniel's picking out her summer wardrobe, or if it's already picked out. Probably already picked out. Probably already picking out fall's wardrobe. Oh, I want that Halloween look. Orange and black, Janie. Orange thongs. Pumpkin bras. Jack-o'-lanterns, I mean. Why would Durwood get some cream for his bulbous nose, his booze nose? Monkey Mind, I don't even think that's actually Durwood. Have you seen him on Facebook? Have you been watching him? You can go and watch him. Why don't you go watch Durwood and comment and go try to ask him those questions. See what he looks like. Roxanne is talking about AB. I've been following this from day one. And I've listened to so many videos. And in one video, it was said that their PJs were buried behind the trailer with blood on it. It could be true. I wonder how somebody would know that, though. Think about that. How would somebody know that? See, I'm not saying it's not true, but how would somebody come to know that? I'd have to say that there's another piece of, like, that's more likely, in my mind, a rumor that's purposefully spread just to distract people out there. Like, how is anybody going to trust any information that comes out of there? You can't. Now, you didn't come from the RCMP. So it resembles bullshit to me. A lot of people are starting to believe that they made it to water. You're going to have to convince me of that in the timeline somewhere. Not saying that it's not possible. It's crossed my mind, like, they're not too far. I just don't know how he would do that other than tie a brick to a bag and throw it out there with a rope so it doesn't float to the surface. And by the way, floating to the surface, old Daniel's around there talking all of these analogies and insinuations and references about apples falling close to trees and lies floating to the surface and things like this. Very, very villain-like talk. He's like an evil villain. Why? Big North Marty, we don't even need to know a motive in this to prosecute this son of a bitch. Did you know that? We don't actually technically need a motive, but there's plenty of motive. Let me see here. I should go pull up some of my notes. Well, if you want me to lay it out, I would have to think that even when you take in Wade's statements, there was an ongoing conflict within the home that would have had to have always been about rugs and money, stresses over taking care of the kids, getting high, coming down, things like this. The kids probably, because they probably had a way of locking them away, maybe, I would expect, when they chose to go do their substances and get their fix, that at some point something probably happened and they would have been punishing them for maybe escaping their confines, getting out when they weren't supposed to, when they're supposed to be doing something else, getting into things, finding their way outside when mommy and daddy are preoccupied. So what I'm getting at is that there is ongoing allegations of ongoing domestic violence within the home. There is conflict, physical violence. Whatever they were arguing about would always escalate. God knows what tweakers fight about. Hey, Lindy. So the ongoing resentment is a motive. Lack of money and constant false promises by Daniel. Failing to deliver, because at the end of the day, he wasn't the one getting any of this money. So the kids are the ones that brought in the mother's allowance every month. But it's a constant battle in comparison because Daniel isn't a real man. He's lets things bother him too much. So he would always hold the fact that he was superior to the man that he stole his prize from, Malaya being his prize. Let's not forget that they were both with other people before this, so they've got extra incentive to make their fantasy become a reality, and that was a real struggle, especially with the state of mind that they were in. And the more that strained on their relationship, the more of the anger that manifested from that fell onto the children. And pretty soon that there's all of these things out in the open that they hold, meaning Daniel's side of the family, against Malaya and her kids that don't have any daddy that's in the picture. They're not loved. They're going to have to do things this way because this is how it is. They become authoritarian and physical in that sense. They enforce through physical punishment. And it's within that physical punishment where it would have escalated up to a point of just nothing short of red rum. It doesn't matter, Denabear at that point, they're proceeding. It has everything to do with the people who were last with. Who else are you going to charge when the parents go missing? They claim that the kids were just there. So no matter what, they've already admitted to being with the parents. It doesn't have anything to do with who did what. They don't have to know what actually occurred to know that the kids are probably dead at this point in time. They would have more of a problem convincing the jury that the kids are actually dead. But the police have already said that they would never be able to survive in those conditions on their own, which was the presumed last state of the scenario brought to you by the parents. You don't have to worry about who did what. It's the people that were responsible in taking care of the children who are going to be charged with it. If they don't want to start talking and explaining it, as in extracting a confession, then they're going to straight up charge both of them with whatever they feel, whether it be capital 1, capital 2, manslaughter, might be criminal negligence causing death at bare minimum here. We've got everything they need, and then some to proceed with the nobody case at this point in time. All of the indicators are out there, including the statements by the RCMP. You don't have to go to grand jury. You don't have to do any of that shit. And they'll get a fucking conviction. Because the sell factor is the fact that you can make a case that one of the individuals that were last supposed to be taking care in a family setting, Daniel and Malaya, as they were known to the school even, so they're going to be, it's not something they can hide on. Okay? If you guys don't want to tell us, you have to prove, number one, that they lied. So here's the big one they're probably waiting on right now. If you're going to proceed, you have to sadly let things go for a certain amount of time the way they are, the way they're presented, in order to prove the lie. You have to prove that they have to be lying without any, beyond all reasonable doubt for the jury. And that should be fairly simple, considering that the lies are at a goddamn premium here. A dime a dozen. They're all over the place. So it shouldn't be too difficult. It'd be difficult if nobody was saying anything and you couldn't question them. Well, in our eyes, because they're not, when we say that, it means publicly. But they don't have to, they don't even have to say how they died in that circumstance. It's simply the fact that they're gone and presumed dead because at the end of the day, they were 4 and 6 and the parents wanted to lead on that they were half naked when they got out. Like Jack was in a pull-up and Lily was wearing nothing but a backpack and some rubber boots. No mention about anything fucking else at that, okay? You don't need any of that. You don't need them to the fact that they're not opening up and letting you know what happened to that extent should tell you that there's hiding something. And they know that as well. So that's really the answer to that. Good to see you, Anon. Hey, Nasty. Janie was ticked, in your opinion, Layla, because she was used as a babysitter. They'll even tell you, if you go up and search, go up to Grok and search about prosecuting no body murder cases, and you'll see pretty soon that motive is the least important. They don't even have to really get into it if they wanted to pursue it. Really, they have to prove that you indeed did lie, which shouldn't be too difficult in this circumstance, you would think. That the kids are actually dead. And that's already been all but indicated by the RCMP in the conference way back in May. Christ, they wouldn't have survived independently more than a couple days at best in good weather. Let alone all of the crap that Daniel was portraying in front of that that camera. Think about how bad that was, how crazy of an acting that was. Dude was just straight up tweaking out on the CBC and Global and CTV and everybody else that filmed there. Straight tweaking. Very first interview, the guy didn't have a clear word in his statements. It was all run on. And what I mean run on, it had the numb tongue indicator that he was using in that moment. And looking back on what his friends said in that fight at the end of the driveway, I would have to give that a lot more credence at this point in time after I heard that. All right? Knowing how tweakers sound when they're fucking zooming. He sounds exactly like it. And you only get that from doing the Tina. Daniel says, I don't realize the magnitude of this case or the impact on my daily life. Seriously, who thinks like that when children he's raised for 3 years are missing? Hey, exactly. He's got a secondary agenda out there, and it has everything to do with how it is he's perceived. But look at how he's conversing on it. It's all in vain. He'll be talking about the same thing, how hard it is on him being in prison. Just wait. You'll be in solitary confinement, by the way. So I think from this perspective, friends out there, I think what we just talked about is probably the strongest point as to why we're not seeing any progress that we'd like to see out here in TV land. Of course, we like things to sum up every half an hour and have a happy ending. However, this is real life. But don't think that the RCMP are dropping the ball in that sense. In my mind, there's enough time has to pass by where you can prove that the parents lied. All right? Or else you're not going to have a case in a no-body case, because you can't expect with the level of lies that are being presented to you that they're going to all of a sudden start telling you the truth and have a come to Jesus moment. That's not how it works in the criminal world. All right? And they're flaunting all of this in front of us. They're going to have to proceed with the no bodies as if, we can't wait till, that would be nice. We'll always be looking for them, but it's not going to hold them back with bringing the people responsible for their destruction to justice. It's just that you have to prove, not a motive, you have to prove that they lied. And then it's all over but the crying. Because at the end of the day, just measuring off of what they've openly discussed or lied about here on social media, they obviously have a story with the RCMP. And it's different than the one that they really come to social media about. Or it's changed, or it's always changing, and it's adapting. It's not an actual legitimate scenario other than the fact that the kids are actually missing. Nihilism. People who defend Malaya so adamantly scare you, like Cheryl Christini, the pink-haired psychic beach friend. Yeah, dude, she gets under my goat right now as well. But what it does is confirm in your mind just the level of manipulation that's going on in the background. Don't let it bother you too much, but it is annoying. I'm kind of happy because it gives us something to complain about. Yeah, Roxanne, I don't think this is too high profile. Like, this is the worst of the worst. And not only that, you did it twice to your own kids. That's fucking evil. That's as evil as it gets. Usually, sadly, when you talk about having to red rum children, there's often a high percentage of times a lot of SA that comes along with it, and that being a real factor in the determination of not wanting any of this to get out. And wouldn't you know it, and that would fit the type of individual that Daniel is really portraying himself as in this circumstance. So I'm just waiting for that, and I would think that that's coming down the line. However, we don't have out here any information that would say much. However, if you know the writing on the wall and the patterns, you've already kind of identified it yourself out there, and it's sad. And that's a problem, because that would really put Malaya under the gun as to exactly, from a sexualized standpoint, what exactly was going on in that house. Could be why the kids acted out in the first place, Daphne. Maybe. That whole conditioning wasn't going well for them. This new individual in their lives. Shannon, the family was definitely dysfunctional. It's so frustrating, and I don't even want to think of the SA idea. I'll only bring it up in when you're trying to think about motive and the reasoning for the second child. Like, I mean, in that mind, just the simple fact, knowing that there's 2 dead children, rule out any sort of accident. In my mind, it makes it less probable, especially when there's so many signs of violence in the household, and every other kind of abuse is right there for you at this point. And that's just from looking, even in the language that they use. You can see the deception. Even on the CBC, you can see the deception and the inability to answer the question in a clear, concise manner. He obfuscates. He takes that moment to identify and lie, right? And that's openly. He's playing stupid, they say. Daniel tried blaming Jack's behavior on Cody, like Jack was only 1 year old. He grew up with you, Daniel. Again, all of this pattern of putting all the blame back onto the victims and the children here. They have all kinds. Could you imagine having all of these complaints about toddlers? Toddlers are freaking awesome. You should be having fun. But sadly, yeah, David, you got it all summed up there? No, I think it's the 150, not for solving the case, but for actual physical evidence of the children, like, and their location. You get your swim fins on, your swim trunks, your wetsuit. Yeah, well, it's easy to say that, Julia Hayden. You're still not convinced the RCMP is on this? I think they are. It would scare me if, what would scare me if the kids were actually coming from wealth and they were a well-to-do family. The fact that we know that they're scum of society make me feel even better about how this is going to go down. That way, these people don't have enough money to be paying off any people or throwing influence around. There's none of that. Amethyst Girl, you're talking about that being in Plunder? Well, that could possibly be. It was reported on the dispatch that a water bottle, a purple headband, and red-stained girls' panties were found, but Daniel said that they're not lilies. Oh, just imagine they weren't lilies there, you little fucking pedo. That was on Plunder, you think? Yeah, Amethyst Girl, I'll keep an eye out for that. But if that was discussed, that really makes you think, because Danny, you got a little bit too fucking crazy. A little bit too carried away. You're sure the RCMP know the adults are involved are lying? Absolutely, Shannon. I mean, seriously, they do have some experience. But then again, think about it in... Not then again, excuse me. But think about it in contrast with the CBC interviews. Don't they seem just a little bit too suggestive in biased, in their skeptical of the subject matter, because they're presenting us such cockamamie answers in a condensed version? It would seem to me that something's going on in the background, not without Daniel involved. Like, there's a reason why that is up there. It's interesting that there's these two missing kids that are lost in the woods, but yet none of the focus of the CBC in-depth interviews were anything but talking about how innocent either Janie or Daniel was, in a way that nationally suggests that they're even more suspicious now that you get to hear and meet them a little bit more than ever. Because they've just admitted to you that the story that they called the RCMP with is bunk. It's bullshit. That's what you did when you told them that there's more to this story, and that Malaya has all of the information. That says that everything else that's presented to us is not worth considering, son. And that's on the national news. I'm not sure in Unique Rhythm. Those people haven't really come out publicly and said anything, thank God. But I'm sure that they've got all kinds of things to say about, especially now knowing that they're missing. There's be all kinds of valuable information from the bus driver, the staff at the school who knew the kids, who first brought up the concerns with the children. We're not privy to all of that information, but I'd love to be a fly on the wall. At some point, we're gonna know it. Because we have all of these indicators early on of problems, you can't see the Crown having an issue with any sort of evidence and not having any when it comes to convincing a jury in this circumstance, especially because of the implausible story that they approached the RCMP with on that phone. And they were doing most of their time was acting in front of all of those searchers in this circumstance, presenting it a certain way. Well, the cops are going to investigate a circumstance like this the same way regardless, because of the fact that everybody's looking and they can't find the kids. Believe me, somebody out there is suspicious and skeptical, no matter what Daniel is trying to do by getting himself in front of the camera and crying and carrying on like an idiot. See, what he's doing when he's crying, he's making it look like all of this is outside of his control. And that's more important to him than anything at this point in time. From the suspect standpoint, you want to make it look to everybody that, oh, it's so outside your control. Somebody has got to have done this to me, obviously, right? Because you're taking advantage of the ignorance of the public and them not knowing you yet. But as soon as they get to know you, they'll be a little suspicious. Did I hear Janie correct the interviewer, Daphne, when the interviewer said this is the door they would have came out? Yeah. Janie said this is the door they went out of. Yeah. So that tells me she knows the power of suggestion. I don't like, heaven forbid they want you to fill in the blanks. They're answering your questions with a question rather than give you a direct, this is what happened, if that was so important to you. It's a goddamn con. It's like they're fucking carnies. And they're trying to hustle us out of our money in order to play this fucking scam game with them. Fuck you. Oh, depression would have been every day with these people. That's the least of their worries, though. You don't want to stop being depressed? Stop doing drugs, assholes. Get yourself sober. Pull your fucking self out of this little lifestyle that you think that you can get away with. See, there had to have been an ongoing lifestyle. This is why I think that he was also cooking and selling and all of that. Because there's an ongoing lifestyle that kept them into this routine. Where if it was just recreational use, well, all it really leads up to is the fact that you can't afford to get high all the time. But you can when you start to make it and you start to sell it and it pays for itself. Then you start to carry your own addiction. Then pretty soon you're doing enough to carry a second person's. Now you're making it worthwhile to stay high all the time, which was what was happening. Absolutely it was. And I trust Wade when he says that, especially to an absolute stranger at that point in time, so openly about this. It's, in my mind, solid. Hey, Durd, that's 1,000% ironclad, brother. Yeah, Larry Green, you got it right. Daniel was talking more about himself. Yeah, that's a strong indicator too. That's a tell. There's all kinds of tells with this guy. Daphne, that's a strong point. You get 5 points for that statement tonight. Friends, listen to this. If they were innocent, they wouldn't have to prove or show anyone what happened. Exactamundo. The truth speaks for itself in these circumstances, and these guys have all kinds of fucking stories they're trying to convince you of. That's a strong tell at this point in time, especially to anybody trying to figure out, or anybody with kids that have lied to them. Who took the last cookie out of the cookie jar? It's that kind of lie too. Everything. It's all deceptive. It's just so sad because at the end of it, you know it's all in vain to cover up their mistreatment from two children who Malaya ripped them away from the paternal side of the family because of conflict and into the arms of the devil in this circumstance, who ended up hating the children but calling it love and loving them to death. And to the point where he exploited, like he's, for him to exploit those children would have been nothing. They thought nothing of those children. You can hear it in their demeanor and voices. They're not big fans, to say the least. And to know that asshole Daniel was out there running around putting on a show for all of these fucking searchers who were buying it, giving him the benefit of the doubt in front of the cameras. Friends, it works against him in the long run. But it is so low to know that he's responsible for this at the end of the day, and to watch him tweak out and bounce around like a fucking maniac as though he's concerned about something, but he doesn't know what. But all of a sudden now he knows exactly what happened, as opposed to when he was in front of that camera, in front of this camera. The guy's so fucking wishy-washy about this. You know goddamn well he's got the blood of those children on his hands. That's not just figuratively speaking. So the bottom line is, you have to prove that these assholes are lying. In order to do that, you have to go through a lot of information and catch them. That takes some time. And that, in my opinion, is what keeps them free at this point in time. Not for very long. Not for very long. I would have thought that those wheels were in action already when you heard him. Like, the tell to me, like the giveaway to me, without a doubt, was his interview with the CBC when he's admitting to the story being different than the story that was initially put out there. Think about that from a homicide investigator standpoint. Well, this pretty much solved itself right there. We just have to get the details. Anytime that you're coming to me and you've lied to me, about the circumstances in which you admittedly did then put all of the blame over on Malaya, tells me that he pulled that shit with the RCMP. And they're split up in that sense. Has more to do with them getting away with this than it has to do with them actually not wanting to be together in the first place. It's part of the post premeditated plan for their conspiracy to cover this up, how they were going to get away with it. Because it's easier for them to sit there from afar and put blame on one another for as long as possible and generate that doubt. And time is something that you want from a guilty person's perspective. Whereas people out here, we have a tendency to think that if they're not telling us anything and they're not arrested, they're not suspicious, they're not doing anything, they're dropping the ball. It's easy to say that now, but I don't think that that's the case just because of, one, the need to come out in front of the CBC in the first place and defend yourself, okay? Obviously, you've got to be a little concerned. Like, what I'm saying is if you're genuinely not guilty of something, like, you wouldn't even think about it otherwise. It wouldn't be in your periphery to go and have to do all of this stuff as though it was just routine for you to go in front of the CBC camera to let everybody know just how innocent you are of murder. That tells me that you did murder these kids. We have the answer to this. And you're already positioning yourself for what's coming down the line. Lily, thank you very much. It's so generous of you gifting that membership, darling. Explorer Car, Layla, in your opinion, it was Daniel who lost patience with the kids. That, absolutely, I agree with that. You could tell he was not a fan of Lily and Jack, let alone even have the desire. You can tell. There's not a whole lot going on in there. They don't escape the trap house too much. The situation ruined Janie's relationship with Daniel's ex and her bio grandkids. Yep, I'd be frustrated too, but not... Yeah, well, I agree with that. I'm not too concerned in them burning bridges. I'd say, yeah, child murder is pretty much... that's a fucking problem. I draw the line far before that ever has to happen. But heaven's sakes, I'm not trying to make a joke out of it. Like, the worst happened here. And this is what it looks like when they lie and try to get away with their crime. It's just odd that they haven't done anything yet. I agree. Daphne, remember what Janie said, RCMP quiet? It made her mad, so she came out and spoke. Well, if they got quiet towards them, I'd be a little concerned. They're probably strengthening the case against them all there. Especially now that it's so blatantly obvious, you don't have to convince a jury that they lied when they go in the CBC and make these little comments. You can get them up there and ask them exactly what they want. I want to see a jury trial. In my opinion, when you get them to that point, they'll be jumping at whatever it is in order to get away from the truth at that point, because I still feel that they're lying in that sense. It's not going to matter too much. They're going to charge them both with the same goddamn thing. They're responsible for those children's lives at the end of the day. And the fact that you assholes are acting like you're not and putting the blame back on the children that have gone and disappeared is a real strong indicator that you did something awful to them. And that you have been doing something awful to them on a consistent basis, not just one instance every now and then, that it was an ongoing cycle of systematic abuse that you tore out on these children. And when drugs got involved, it went in beyond that into SA. And in that whole circumstance, it's plausible to me that you took both their lives out of pleasure as opposed to anger. But that part of the psychology is far away yet. But I'm just saying, because there is an answer to that now. And that's just how I think Daniel is. Like, think about the type of human being that he is at this point in time with what it is that we're talking about and alleging that he's doing. Julia Hayden says, thank you very much for the $10 super chat, darling. I would really like a retired Crown attorney, RCMP, etc. interviewed so we can have insight on what is taking so long for an arrest. Well, they're probably just going to tell you what I told you. But yeah, if it sounds better coming from, it'd be difficult because these people that you're asking for, Julia, have influence and power to outwardly say stuff like that is a long stretch. Whereas you have a retired homicide investigator, those guys are the best. Those guys are the best, as opposed to like an attorney at law in that sense. You'll know. You're just suffering from that part where you want to know really bad, but you're not really a part of the investigation. I'm not even making a joke. We all get it. We all suffer from that. We all need to satisfy our curiosity because we have too much emotionally invested right now not to be. And that's a good place to be. You care. You think the kids didn't make it home Thursday night, Roxanne? When they were seen on video because Daniel and Malaya took a different route coming back. I say they were disposing of the bodies before they got home. I think about that all the time right now. But every time I go into deep thought about that, although it's on the table, we don't have any information. There is some indicators. Maybe the fact that we don't have any information about that whole route home, that whole trip, and a lot of detail around that would suggest that there's something more to that little initial journey than we want, or we initially think. The fact that he's avoiding talking about that stop should suggest to you that there's probably more to it, wouldn't it? And what, he disposed of them in the Atlantic? 50-50. My friends, I'm 50-50 right now. Could be either or. We know that he had plenty of time, but not without being able, like you and I out there, to pull together a reasonable timeline, which, by the way, the cops are able to do. We're not. They have access to all of their phone data, all of the corroborating evidence, all of the eyewitness, all of the webcams. We don't have that. I wish we did. But until we have that, I'm not even hazarding a guess. Otherwise, it's just a possibility. We do know that it's probably completely different to what it is that they're leading on. Like, they didn't go to bed at 7, 8 o'clock the night before and slept and have this 12, 14 hours of absolute neglect on the kids only to wake up and find them gone because you continue to abuse them. You know, that's 12, 13, 14, 15, 14, 15 hours at most. Good God. Yeah, right. It's one thing if you're coming out and you're exposed and there's a drug den in there and you're in there half asleep, but it's not what happened. You think that they both developed? See, that's so. KD, God bless you, darling. 5 more gift memberships. Welcome, friends. Make sure you thank KD. I appreciate that. That's very generous. Yeah, I don't think they slept that night, Shannon. Not that. I'm with you. I don't think that they slept. They were too busy disposing of the body. And it happened sometime before 6:18. Probably sometime before 4. They say that they were seen on video 10 p.m. the night before 10, the day before that. Sometime between that point and the time they called them in sick for school. They don't even want to talk about that. They don't even talk about why they weren't feeling good. The fact that he's talking about the kids already having black eyes at that point and already being in a state of something and put blame on the other kid in that sense. Oh, it was how many kids do you know brother and sister at 4 and 6 give each other black eyes and are that violent. In order for them to be that violent and giving each other black eyes and brutal, they must live around a violent, brutal household in that sense. This guy sits there and acknowledges it like it's a normal thing, knowing full well that he's got to come up with some bullshit story because the truth is going to make him look even worse. And we know that he's lying. All right. So that would already classify him as the absolute worst case scenario individual in these children's lives. It's too bad. And that's another effect of the shit that he was cooking and selling. You know, you have a temper. You have a short fuse. Everything annoy you, especially when you're in a bad mood. It's not like you start taking these drugs and you turn into a real great person, happy and engaging. No. The opposite. Yeah, that's my opinion too, Shannon. I don't think they were sick either. That's just a story. But there should have been 2 calls. There should have been another call to the bus company as well to call them in sick to the bus company. Never heard them mention that. Maybe they do it different. I don't know. I always had to put in 2. Yeah, nor'easter of volatile household. Is that what you... That's a better way to term it. And not the good volatility. Yeah, a little girl isn't going to clobber her baby brother that she adores. Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, kids are super empathetic, especially in situations like that, unless they come from, unless they're made to be violent. So what is he really suggesting? I in no way think that Lily was even play fighting with another child that hard, especially your brother. It sounded like in any sort of noise that they made, they'd get yelled at and disciplined at that point in time. Yeah, that's not in the... Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's too difficult. There's too many eyes on the coastline. I get what you're saying. And that's a big chance. You have to go out into the woods, into some waist-deep water. Yeah, he's talked about that several times, especially, the fact that he's telling you he was searching for his kids in waist-deep water. Like, right. I'll just bet you are. Well, so it takes a while to cover places too, right? So I think it's probably a good possibility. Like there's a lot of space for him to take all the time he needs in the world to dispose of 2 small packages. And when you're tweaking hard like that, what they probably didn't anticipate at that point in time, after I looked at the first video of Daniel on camera during the day he was so actively searching, you could tell he probably got so blasted when he was out disposing of the body in order to come, bring himself to do that in the first place. Like those things could be 25 feet in the ground. Who knows? Who knows what a tweaker is going to think, but there's going to be mistakes made all along the way, you would think. And I mean, they have to be somewhere around there. It's just a matter of time. I got to encourage people to go out and organize their own search parties. Make sure that you do it properly in accordance to respecting private land and things like that. But there's all kinds of reason to be out and about and filming places. Maybe we'll have to send Scam and Alley down there from Oh, fuck. What's their channel's name? KM Alley. You guys could go and make friends with a couple of new tweakers. Yeah, right, Shannon. Well, I think his thought with that, so the statement is, it's so weird, allegedly, the children were missing 20 minutes, according to the parents, and he's getting in his vehicle searching, surveying culverts, waist-deep water, and dirt roads. It's just bizarre. Absolutely, it doesn't match the scenario, his behavior. Okay, but what it does do is make it look like this situation that happened is so far beyond his control, all while the police are saying there's no evidence of a stranger abduction, which, by the way, is evidence in of itself. They would be eager to put out a Amber Alert. They wanted an Amber Alert to be put out in that case, and they didn't get one. That would suggest that they're on the run somewhere. And Daniel already went through that. Remember, Daniel was the one who was championing Malaya being on the run from the cops now. They're onto her. And I'm telling you, the entire time, it would be hard to be in that household and not know the reasons why those kids are missing at this point in time. Because remember, friends, we're that real here. We knew that story had to be bullshit, the one that they called them with. And that's not saying that I'm clairvoyant by any means. It has to be bullshit. Therefore, anything, we're opening ourselves up to a lot of other alternatives as to what could have happened to the kids. And the least probable would be a stranger abduction. Like, I'm talking a fractional of a percent. Not even worth considering. You wouldn't be talking about that. There's no need to talk about that when there's so much abuse and so prevalent. It would be so interesting to know right now what their responses to the questions were to the detectives. I should almost compile a bunch of the usual questions that they would have been asked in this circumstance. Gotta think about that a little bit. Janie has to have an idea, Shannon? I think so. She's just in staunch denial. She's in protection mode, which is too bad because that makes her an accessory to all of this. She's withholding information. Actively obstructing justice. I wish they pulled out their billy clubs and beat her in the knees right there. That's how upset I am with her. But of course, you have to be more professional when you're on duty. Now, Lacadian, this case isn't cold at all. What are you coming here like that for? You should be feeling better about the no-body prosecution at this point in time than anything. Well, in order to get waist deep, you've got to get out there in the first place. Oh, I knew I was in that water. I knew that they were down there. I was searching in that water. Funny that, if they ever did get found. There's only so many bodies of water in that area, though. Do you think there's 2 packages or 1? Do you think they're together or apart? I don't know. It's interesting, something to consider. It would depend how much time you would have allotted for him after you've pulled all his records. He had the potential to hide them 2 different places, but that's twice the chance of being seen. Yeah, they're apart in your view, Katie? God, I really hope that they have something on those trail cams. That would be interesting. At some place, you think that somebody would have had something. But then again, this is Canada. I mean, it's the remoteness is working against the case in that sense. It's so remote in that sense. It's remote and it's not remote. Yeah, I know why people feel defeated, Monkey Mind. Don't be, though. When that RCMP officer got in front of the camera and told you that he didn't believe those kids to be alive or able to remain alive independently, that was a sad day, but also an indicator in the RCMP suggesting that there's a pivotal shift in this investigation, in my humble opinion. And a lot of the decisions are going to be made. You might not necessarily recognize them as being important or important times, but they might have to maintain the status quo in that circumstance. They've deemed them not a flight risk. They're not going anywhere. They're under heavy surveillance. They're not getting away with anything. They're just waiting for enough time to pass, maintaining the status quo so as that they feel comfortable in proving and being able to prove that above and beyond anything else, that these parents lied. Even their silence and their inability to answer basic questions in that regards, as to being accountable in that circumstance. Because avoiding and dodging is only good if you're doing it to people you don't have to be accountable to, like the police. All right? They can't pull that shit with the police. So as long as Daniel's out here thinking that he's helping the situation, the case, it's just a matter of time. You know, they're not all carbon. They don't all are not all the same in that sense. Different circumstances, sadly. It's just that you recognize that these people are absolutely lying, right? And it makes you feel so strong when you guys recognize that these people are out here lying. Therefore, the cops must know they're lying. Therefore, why can't they throw the handcuffs on them and arrest them and hold them accountable? The law doesn't work like that, sadly. Necessarily. It doesn't have to necessarily work like that unless there's a greater plan at hand. In my mind, it should work like that. But again, we're falling short. We're over-speculating, assuming we know more, and the cops know as more as we suspect, or know as much as we suspect they know in that. So it's a lot of mind games. The simple answer to you is that they don't have enough direct evidence tying them to the deceased body, or even having any idea of what went on. That would be the easy answer in a two-dimensional case like that. But again, I've got to keep bringing up, if you're in a situation like this and you want to proceed, you have to proceed with a no body, and then there's certain rules that you have to abide by. So if you go up on Grok or ChatGPT, start asking it about prosecuting no body murders in Canada. And we've gone over some of the things here, but that's really an answer to your questions as to where the investigation is, I feel. Whether, it's just talking heads getting in front of the camera, playing with people's emotions that don't know any better. You could have spent your time learning how the system worked and answered your own questions. But the CBC, for some reason, and these mainstream media want to hold you along and make it look like you're asking rational questions from reasonable minds, rather than you're not going to get them up there speculating, identifying that they're bullshit lying. They're going to go with whatever answer that you've provided them, whether it be the most stupidest thing they've ever heard or not. They're in a position where anything that you say is going to be used against you in that court of law. But Daniel's in there playing that game because he has to be. because it's working on his guilty conscience. He's indicated that. He's already talking about all of the different things that the RCMP, the tactics that they're going to employ on them, like the peace method and all of these Mr. Big setups, perhaps, if that's even necessary. Like, again, getting back to the biggest thing, they have everything else. Okay, they've indicated everything else that's going to be good enough for a conviction for a jury, other than that the jury has to be without, beyond a reasonable doubt, convinced that these parents are lying in this circumstance. And you can't give your hand away from the cops. Like, it doesn't matter if Daniel and them know the process or not. It's still working against them. They're still the people who have to be lying and hiding. And guess what? They've been lying and diverting this entire time publicly. What better evidence do you need? That's the exact evidence that you want. And the more the better. Phoenix, you remember when Malaya instantly called 911? Instinctively? Yeah. No. It has nothing to do with reserve issues or her status at all. Or if she's it has nothing to do with that. It's not the native reservations that get to overwrite any sort of legislature. It's the other way around. The federal government has every right to go above and beyond. There's just no need to at this point in time, because they're not flight risks. That's all, Julia. It doesn't have anything to do with being a status native. None at all. In fact, being native in this circumstance usually works against you when you deal with the RCMP, because you're discriminated against. The system is set up to work against you. But it has nothing to do when it comes down to arresting a suspect in a murder case at this point. What's working, like, listen. It's just people being, you guys aren't patient in that sense. But you know what? Why don't you send a letter off to the Crown prosecutor in that particular area and let him know? Let him know what you're concerned about. I'm sure that somebody's going to get a communique from him in that sense. It would be more therapeutic for people. he would be able to tell you. You could ask him some theoretical questions, or ask his assistant some theoretical questions and things. Not necessarily directly to the case, but in situations and theoretical, hypothetical situations. What is it like that usually it's always the same things, guys, that prevent them slapping that cuffs on these individuals. And considering that these people are trying to get away with something that's so blatantly different than what it's portrayed, I have to put the trust that the cops are going to be calling this one out. That's all. But their way. So when the cops get in front of the camera and give you the sad news that they don't believe the children are alive anymore, that doesn't actually say that they're going to put it in overdrive and put the pedal to the metal and get this thing wrapped up as soon as possible. In an ideal environment, that would be great. But when things shifted gears, that's when the case started to shift and it starts to need to strengthen over time. And guys, May, June, July, it's 3 months. June, July, August. It's not exactly like it's been a long time. And think about how different of a scenario this is now, today, August 4th, than we thought it was on May 3rd or 4th or 5th. That's a fairly short amount of time, especially for the public to do such a vast shift. They really fucked up. Not the RCMP, but Daniel and Malaya and them. Of course she's shutting up because she's guilty. That's the only reason to shut up in a circumstance like this. But the process in which it's going to satisfy the Crown prosecutor in being able to feel comfortable going and proceeding in front of a jury of 12 people is that there has to be no doubt when they start. Because it's easy to fuck around in court like that and them fall through. And you have to have enough over these assholes in order to really essentially be able to extract a confession, but don't expect that you're going to, because they know how to play the system already. They're wise enough to that. They're going to have to go with this no body and continue the search. And when they're up there, if they want to admit, I don't ever expect for them to tell you where the bodies are, maybe in 20, 30 years after being fucking in prison, in solitary confinement maybe. But being able to prove that they lied here, from a legal standpoint, it would be silly for it to push right now. It's something that has to happen when the time is right. You'd be silly to interrupt this right now because the RCMP know that they're still suspects, and they know exactly what their state of mind is. So they know how to manipulate on their end. You know that stress over time is going to make them crack. They're the ones that have to live with this. They're the ones already complaining. They're the ones that have to call in the CBC to plant all of this false narrative out there for everybody. Because why? Because their guilty knowledge is driving them to do this. If people were innocent of any wrongdoing, there's no need to be claiming how innocent you are on the CBC. It shows you the type of mindset that these tweakers over there and crazy people are fucking in, all right? So why wouldn't the police just let that stew a little bit and let it fester, and let's see what manifests itself over there? Because the one thing that's for sure, those kids aren't coming back. They're not a flight risk. They're tweakers. They're hard. So it's really only a matter of time until, like, Christ, I'm going to be honest with you. To pull all of the information from their electronic files probably would have taken a month, let alone analyze it and then stew it over between a bunch of other analysts and actually come to some sort of healthy timeline. Fuck, these guys have holidays. This is the middle of summer. What do you think? They work 24/7? Come on now. It's 9 to 5. These guys aren't exactly the speediest of workers in that sense because, again, they're federal employees and they're police. Not that I'm holding that against them. It's just the nature of the beast. There's a workload here. I'm sure that they bring their work home with them, no doubt. But when it comes to police getting things done in this sort of way, you're not talking about unless it's blatant. It's not going to be right away. And you want it to be more dramatic than that too, by the way. Who knows what we can only speculate. But what it really does, it come down to, is a couple detectives and a Crown prosecutor that do have access to all of the information, making that determination. And believe me, they have a plan. They are approaching this in a certain way, and they are fully aware of all of the fucking bullshit that they're bringing. You can bet on it. Absolutely, without a doubt. Why? Because that's their job. Their job is to be skeptical in this circumstance. And guess what? The PR, the HR or the PR guy who talks to the media probably doesn't even talk to the detectives in that circumstance. So they're not even in a communication forum, enough information there on a need-to-know basis where that cop is going to jeopardize saying something. He's going to give you the standard. But guess what? Surprisingly, the RCMP have indicated in their statements already certain things that would otherwise indicate it's something other than it's being presented. What does that tell you? It tells you that they're already in the know and they're ahead of the game, even though we're out here panicking, speculating, thinking that they might not know all of the bullshit lies that we see on the day in and the day out. They're probably not even interested. They already know. They already know. They don't need to see every inch of bullshit lies that Daniels brings. They already know he's bullshitting. But the sheer need to be out here interacting with the public right away, that takes time. Like, that's happening on a daily basis. Why would they want to interrupt all of this information that the last person that saw Jack and Lily is willing to bring to them? Like, if he's bringing information to them, it's like kind of a hypothetical theory here. If he keeps bringing fresh information to them, technically they can't keep, at some point maybe, but they have to accept it. So maybe to him, who knows what's going on in the background from the RCMP perspective. We know Daniel and what he says, but who knows how engaged he is and what he's actually saying to them. And you damn well know that you know exactly he's not helping them, rather than. But isn't the suspect volunteering information helping and in some sort of way anyway in that circumstance? It's a theoretical. Who knows? It depends on what's being said, I guess. Oh yeah, there's that too, Amethyst Girl. Yeah, you're walking on eggshells when dealing with the chief. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter if she's related to the chief or not. What she's going to be providing, regardless, is she has a bond with Malaya in that circumstance. It's not going to protect her from being prosecuted for murdering her own children. I'm pretty sure the chief isn't going to agree with child murder in that circumstance. So there's dynamics in the background that are helping her in that circumstance. Well, she's got people manipulated. Of course she's not guilty of everything. She doesn't know what happened. That's the story. The kid's just walking away is the story that she's telling all of her family and friends, who, by the way, none of which really believe her other than that stupid pink-haired psychic beach friend. Cheryl Christini. There's a trustworthy person. Laurie Green. We heard Malaya and Daniel and Janie's version, so police see the inconsistencies. Let them do their job. So we'll revisit this conversation after the fact. I hate to get hung up on that, but that's the best that I can come up with in that no body circumstance, and just calling it for what it is. The police, think about all of the information that's being volunteered. Why would you want to change any of that? We'll take this for as long as the parents want to take this. Because wouldn't it seem rather suspicious if you started jumping the country? It's not like these people have passports. They're not going anywhere. Right? So they can only go so far. And they're still under surveillance. They got to talk. They got to eat. They got to do something financially. It's not like the cops don't have access to all of their information at the touch of a fingertip at any one point in time. Like, where are you going to go now? The fact is that I'm upset is because there's child killers, but there's lots of child killers out there who haven't been caught. So it's just in vain, really. I don't think the RCMP are too happy about it. They have to deal with it as it comes, though, too, right? Daniel said Malaya put them to bed the night before. He helped his mom with the fence. Well, isn't that convenient? What a nice boy you are. Yeah, I'll just bet you did. What did you need help with the fence? It just goes up with a couple nails. It's always been up. You go and you put it up. These are skids. That's not even a fence. It's a skid. Sideways. Boys, you could have looked on YouTube and learned how to build a fence better than whatever the fuck it is that you're putting together there. I'd put a pause on that fence right now if I were you, though. They'll be taking it down and burning it in winter. Who are you talking about, Lacadian? Your stomach flip-flops all over it, Phoenix? Makes you a little nauseous? I think the RCMP have something up their sleeve. Yeah, I don't know about that. Oh fuck! I wouldn't say that, Amethyst girl. Listen. They're not safe for Daniel because everybody on the res knows he's a fucking dealer. All right? There's all kinds of there's secondary black industries that go on in the reservations. Daniel wouldn't be safe on that reservation unless he's doing business there. They all know he's a fucking dealer and he would be a public enemy number one. Simple as that. Not to mention the guy has fucking red hair and is white as a ghost. That would be the only thing. And he would be well known on that reservation. Don't expect much. You think that the reservations are these big happy fucking families. It's just a place where the federal government can make it look like there's harmonious relations between a conquered people and the white man. It's a fucking concentration camp, people. All right? And there's some worse ones than others. No, it's not true. It's not true, Julia Hayden. That's not true in a circumstance like this, not in a case like this. And we're talking about a case specific to these two missing children. Absolutely they will. It's not like they can. Like, it's not like they're in any position to. You're like the reservation doesn't have any sort of organization in that they have secured any sort of financial resources that would give them any great influence, okay? It's not like there's anybody able to give any assistance in the first place. They barely have adequate fucking water and waste treatment. Or hospitals. The fact that you see some sort of res police on there are only to deal with domestic issues and things like that. It's not exactly an ideal situation. But thinking that they need to be in a position of being in the way of justice here, it has nothing to do with it. Her being native and on a reservation right now has nothing to do and is of no consequence either way to the situation at hand. So when I keep seeing that being brought up, it's more of an ignorant statement from your part, even though that Malaya might be at the chief's house. Okay, that's fine. That indicate to you that there's some sort of collusion going on, not other than the fact that she's related to a person and being held up there. That's nothing new. But there's no fucking possible way that the reservation or anybody associated with it is going to make her look any less guilty or prevent her or prevent justice from coming down. The long arm of the fucking white man is going to come in and bring that bitch on out when the time is ready. It's not going to matter. There's not going to be a bunch of fucking people in headdresses forming a human chain to protect anybody because she's a fucking child killer, okay? Nobody likes people who harm children anywhere. And suggesting that is in fact ignorant of the realities of what the people suffer from that are placed with all the free housing you want. You think that's some sort of perk. They get a house to get thrown on some fucking land where they get bullied around, and there's a other dynamic. This is a apartheid in that sense. They are put there, separated from the rest of society. And the only way that it sucks is because the RCMP always seem to let Native people fall through the cracks. Why? Because they're on the reservation. Therefore, their mandates never usually have to do with Native land. Isn't that convenient? Meaning that the same protection that you and I are so lucky to be fucking bestowed upon by the Canadian government isn't the same as the Natives. Therefore, they're targeted and vulnerable in that sense, and nobody says anything when they get murdered. Okay? Because the RCMP, even though they should care, you think it's their job to care, are actually mandated by the Canadian government not to even give fucking any money towards the investigation. And no, it doesn't work it doesn't work in reverse. These people are fucking suffering from poverty. Okay? They have a reason to be disgruntled and overprotective usually. I'm not saying that that's the same on every place and everybody's mentality, but these aren't the happiest places in the world. Why did she go to the res then, Julia? She went there because Grandma Patty's on the res. That's where her family is. That's where the people that support her live. Right? The people that she turns around and fucks over out of, maxes out their credit cards and not pays them back. Her family, people who are going to be apologetic and sympathetic to her plight at this point in time. She's got nowhere else to go. And at the end of the day, instead of being a complete stranger, we talk about her like she's a complete stranger, but like it or not, this complete piece of shit that we look at has a family and has probably people who love her and cared about her because she's still in her 20s. She's barely out. She's had this awful time doing drugs and bringing kids into this world. It has a tendency to draw in the people around you, and they do it for, well, I call it the Christian way in that sense, because at the end of it, no matter what, you still kind of assist that person no matter what they've done in that circumstance. And that's probably a great place for her. Otherwise, she'd be out on the run, causing herself more fucking harm because she doesn't have a real place to go. Who knows what she has manipulated people into thinking? But you know that, Julia. Of course. You should know that. It's not... She's going to have people that come to her aid. Why don't you go ask that damn pink-haired psychic? Talk about having a perfect cover. A perfect assistant. Oh, she's psychic. She can say anything she wants. Her father's family is there. She can get housing and other support she couldn't get otherwise. Yeah, that's true too. Now's a good time as any is to take them up on their offers, I would think as well, right? So that's not going to get that's certainly not going to get in the way of the RCMP coming in to throw the fucking hammer down on her when the time is right. They know where she is. She's not a threat to run. Why? Because she doesn't have anything. The whole world knows she's a fucking child killer, essentially, or let's say suspect for the sake of having a clean conversation. And in my mind, there's a strong likelihood that Daniel is the prime person here that brought harm towards the kids, and she was under the control of Daniel. Not that it's any excuse, but Daniel's control over her has put the fear of God into her in order to stick to a certain narrative. Or you could think that she actually physically brought harm towards them as well. I just think it's less likely in this sense. I don't think that she was the one smacking the kids around. But I do wonder if she lost all kinds of interest as well when she started understanding that there was SA involved potentially. that she started looking at the kids, especially in an altered state of mind, and convincing herself, and she had no control over the resentment she felt towards the children. And when I say towards the children, I say the resentment that she felt towards Cody and the father, because they're a constant reminder of times that she is not at her best, that she wishes never happened. Okay? She thinks, and she's convinced herself of the children being a negative influence in her life, if you could believe that. Satan's kids. Like, that's a common thing for mothers to start turning against the kids because she hates the father in that circumstance. That's potential motive. But the thing is when you can say for sure that this guy is dealing and he's got a constant supply of substance and she's getting high off that supply, that he's controlling her through those drugs. That was absolutely happening. That's just the nature of the substance. It's not just him controlling her, it's those drugs controlling both of them. And then him controlling her through those. But at some point, when you've got enough information, it'd be nice to pit them both against one another. Like, you want one person to really turn against the other person in the circumstance. And there's a real high probability of that happening. Okay, because there's so many people involved there. Don't expect them to break right away. You're going to have to bring some of the high heat. You're going to have to bring some of that tea, some of that spice, some of that good old facts that you already know the answers to the questions, and you can approach them, get them in a position to catch them up. And the damage has been done right there. So that's something for the police to determine. But I mean, that's probably what would be ideal in this situation, because there is so many people involved. Somebody is going to turn on the other person, depending who, because who knows who's in the actual know. Like, we don't know how much Janie actually knows, but she wants you to know anything that goes on in that trailer she has no idea about this early. So that kind of tells me that she probably knows what happened to the kids. She's already out here early enough trying to shed any sort of suspicion of that, just in case you're getting that into your head and want to ask her next. But for sure, Daniel knows, absolutely. In fact, it was probably his and Janie's idea. God knows there's other family members that keeps being brought up. So who knows how more people are in the know. I wouldn't imagine too many. Well, you're just flipping it, Leanne. The law doesn't really give a shit, nor does it matter at this point in time. They can proceed with charges without knowing who the fuck is more culpable. They know you're all culpable, and when they're going to proceed with charges like that, it's going to put them in a very peculiar position. That's when the time somebody will turn. And they'll plead down to lesser charges and make a deal with the Crown in order to testify against the other person. And it could just be for the simple thing as proving the lie. Any lie. And if you can prove any lie in this circumstance, you can prove that the person who's lying is responsible for the destruction and demise and death of these children. Because they can all agree in that jury that the kids couldn't have survived on their own independently. That's enough. So you couldn't imagine the BS story that they're shaking in front of us with this. stepping out of the camper and saying, Malaya is understanding the kids are missing for 20 minutes now. Listen, there's going to be all kinds of ways that they can scrutinize that particular story. The fact that they don't want to add a lot of follow-up, well, you just don't want that to happen once every now and then. You want it to happen all at one time in questioning. So therefore, you have to have enough before you proceed with that level of questioning. Everything else was just a formality. Working with the police, let's try to figure out where the kids are. Oh, I got some more questions for you. It's a lot easier to approach the subjects under that false assumption and narrative that they're presenting to the public as being absolutely innocent of killing these kids. So don't even you dare think that. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, Marsh Sherwood turned a white backpack brown. Yeah, there's a lot of indicators that people are picking up about the colors. Yeah, about what it is. Why even bring the backpack into it in the first place? It was white, now it's brown. Brown like mud, brown like muddy water. He's got a lot of indicators early on under the influence of drugs. So that might be even more of a reason to kind of put your listening ears on and going with some of the pseudosciences. I'm with you on that one. Because in that state of mind of desperation and in fabrication, he still has to pull from somewhere. He still has to pull from the first thing and then twist the little things. So he can still talk about the scenario as in the places he went to hide the body and just talk about them as though he was there searching for them. It's not very difficult. It's kind of like speaking pig Latin. You just have to remember to do it. And that's where they fuck up all the time, and they have messed up every step of the way. But nobody ever acknowledges that in the moment except us out here and that watch it all, right? In that how they screw up their tense and past tense, present tense, future, and how they refer to the kids at any one moment in time as an indicator as to where they're showing deception. And that's absolutely always right on. It's always right on that people mess it up sometimes, but not in a way like that they're messing it up. You're messing it up in line with the story that you're trying to give everybody. Yeah, that's suspect. Whereas if you're recounting the story and you have no reason to be, you're not under suspicion, I should say. It's okay to mess up. Well, Julia Hayden, that's just silly. That's just, you got to be in here trolling me or something. Are you? I don't think I could have explained it any clearer. Her living on a reservation has nothing to do with people harboring or hiding her and somehow thinking that she's innocent in anything. It's where her family who support her live. That's where she is, What does that all of a sudden have to do with really the race? It's a racist statement. I'm trying not to go there, but it doesn't have anything to do with it in that sense. Julia, she could be around a bunch of people who are so fucking stupid, okay? Like her pink-haired friend. Her pink-haired friend thinks that she's innocent. She could tell any of her closest friends that know her who are already bonded to her, and they'll believe anything that she says. What does that matter in relation to anything, though? If there's somebody out there that believes her. It doesn't. It's nonsense. It has nothing to do with the reservation or the people who are on it as a whole. It has more to do with her relation to the people on the reservation and the fact that she's lying to everybody. So you can't then in turn hold that against them, the fact that they believe the lies that their friends told them. It seems a little bit much, especially when you're speculating, right? Well, that's kind of you're on the right track though, Julia. I can agree with that, is that they're both doing this and using it. They're putting blame on the other person in this sense. When you and I both know when there's missing kids and people start pointing the finger at one another, that makes both of them look just as suspicious. Thereby, from a person who's prosecuting the crime, I'm not going to give a fuck at that time. You're both equally guilty. And that's what how the law treats it as well. The more you guys stay quiet and refuse to answer questions, then they'll just proceed in charging you with this. All right? And when they present that to the suspect, every single time, they're going to try to make a deal for a lesser charge. And when you know that the kids are dead and you're looking at capital murder charges, let's say in this one, you can't prove first-degree premeditated murder, so you're going to proceed and charge them with second-degree aggravated or criminal negligence causing death for the maximum. Then you're going to get some more reality, something that you can actually back up. You're going to get some more facts that help them. You're going to get them talking in a more reasonable fashion, be more agreeable to the investigation. That would be the thought, though. Fuck, it's going to be an easy arrest on Malaya. Fuck, you just go in there and slap cuffs on her. What is anybody going to do? Yeah, it's never generally okay to lump everybody into a general way, like a stereotype in that sense, Amethyst. I think that's what you're saying. It's not good to stereotype, but the truth and reality is that there's a lot of bad reservations that are violent. But we're speaking specifically to Daniel. Yeah, they would be a problem for Daniel considering the things that we know he's into. And for things that we don't know yet. That's all. I don't know what you mean, Drippy Girl. I don't know what you mean talking about calling the Brooks a respected family. I don't know who the Smiths or the McDonalds are. Who the hell are they? Maybe it's a bad analogy. I think we got a bad analogy here. No, Julia, doesn't have anything to do with that. Not in my mind. It's just her staying on the res. There's not going to be dynamics playing out between the RCMP and the reservation in any regards. Why? Because the res doesn't have any power to say anything at any other point in time. There's nobody with a reasonable mind out there that thinks Malaya is innocent in this circumstance. Well, because she's not. So what happens when you jump behind a lawyer and you say, okay, this interview's done, I want a lawyer? That's really what Malaya's done. So it's not like she's really in talks with these investigators to begin with. You know, she's hiding behind a lawyer, she's shutting up, she's clammed up. That was the whole point. So it's really easy to go around to a bunch of people and claim that you're innocent and all of this stuff. But in reality, there's got to be nobody in her life unless they're completely out to lunch, which this Christine Cheryl or Cheryl Christine is. And even in that sense, guilty people need a fucking lawyer. You know, you need a lawyer who believes you. You need a lawyer to give you a fair run in that sense, to represent you well. Even if they know that you're guilty of something in that sense. You need a lawyer to find a technicality. So it's not difficult to find people that are going to believe you no matter what. Especially if you got some money. But Malaya doesn't have any. She'll have to borrow some off Patty. And yeah, you don't have to get a criminal lawyer. You can get any lawyer to hide behind in questioning. It just helps. If it's criminal, I think. But if you're family law, I'm pretty sure you're probably not that busy. You know what, Lily? I think they sleep very well at night when they do sleep. All right, Julia. Well, we're going to see. We're going to see how it plays out. Look at the first breaking news from that young RCMP woman. Who are you talking about there, Lacadian? Did Daniel actually put up posters, or did he just say he did? Daniel's running around putting up posters? Well, it's a fine time to start. Lacadian, you're right. She did tell you right from the start. They're talking about Malaya's little interview in front of the camera there. Drifting in and out of sleep, disorganized placement, timeline. Yeah, it read like a rehearsed statement. As you would expect. You got a story you're going to go with. Just like the story that they went with when the Children's Aid were there talking about the conditions in the home and things. But I get where people are coming from, thinking, even Julia, you're talking about, she's got a better chance looking as the victim in all of this as this plays out to the public, but not to the cops in that circumstance. She's got an easier way of convincing the public that she's been victimized, and somehow that's going to equate to being less culpable in all of this. Well, it's only going to go so far. And the more that the truth comes out about this, the worse off they are. They might want not to even go to trial to save themselves the fucking embarrassment if they're that worried about themselves. They might just be happy taking criminal negligence, causing death, and being locked up for God knows how long. I don't think that the RCMP would be satisfied with that, though, in the circumstance. That's probably be a last case scenario, because of what it is we suspect that we're looking at. Okay, guys, I'm out of here. I'll be back tomorrow morning. I can't believe I've been up here almost 4 hours going on. No wonder I'm getting sick of my own voice. Thank you guys for not getting sick of my voice yet. But I could talk about the what ifs like this all night. And don't worry, Julie, I'm not upset or trying to talk down to you at all. I'm just I just get too wound up. I'm overtired at this point. Let me get all refreshed and cuddle up and sleep, and we'll continue this on. Got sidetracked from reading these stupid messages. But in reality, there's nothing really in here that's all that good, other than that stooge was talking about it. Just Daniel's statements again. You can go over to Justin's and check it out if you want. But you guys, I appreciate the super chats. Thank you very much. It's very generous. And I'll be back. We'll continue it on tomorrow morning. All right. Peace out, friends.